Steve Caballero is joining us on Gypsy Tales.
Skateboarding wasn't something that I looked like I want to be a pro someday and make money, because
There probably wasn't really anybody doing that.
No, not at all. When I first turned pro at 15, people would ask me what I did for a living. I'm like, I'm a professional skateboarder. And the first thing that came out of their mouth is, can you make money at that? That's how I feel like skateboarding has gotten so popular and progressed at different levels, because we took one guy's style and add a different guy's style and made up our own tricks. And that's how I was able to invent my own tricks as a young skater. That's what I knew that would make you stand out. There's a term in dirt bike riding. It's like, it's not if, it's when you're going to crash. And I think that's with everything in life. It's like, it's not if you're going to wreck or fall or crash, it's when.
But before we get into this podcast, we have some breaking news. Manscaped now offers beard products, and they are available in your country. It's time to tame your mane, so say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. They have created 4 dermatologist-tested formulations for your post-trim care. First, there is the beard shampoo and conditioner, the beard balm that shapes, styles, moisturizes, and tames for a sculpted look. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard, so no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. The Beard Pro Kit also comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is always ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code GYPSYGANG at manscaped.com. Manscaped Beard Hedger. 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths.
I met a gypsy.
Like, I was on the Vans Warped Tour out there for a while. I've done a couple big day outs as well years ago.
Like skating.
Skating.
'Cause they used to do the vert contest at Big Day Out.
Yeah, but it was more of a demo
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And, I used to go to Bondi
Yep.
every year. I went to Bondi contest for pretty much 10 years straight
Yeah, okay.
when Vans had a...
Oh, because they had the bowl there.
Yeah, it's right on the beach. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Dude, I'm going to get so much like memory flashback through this podcast. So
Awesome.
Steve Caballero is joining us on Gypsy Tales, and you asked me before, you're like, oh, what sparked the interest to get you on the show? Mate, I see you every single time I'm at the track.
Oh, really?
And you're just there. Like, you're about as pure as moto gets. Like, I can just watch you with the boys, like you're just doing your thing by the truck and figuring out obstacles on the track. And there was actually one day at Parla, the last time I rode at Parla, they just changed the vet track.
Yeah.
And they had like this weird kind of double quad thing.
Yep.
And I didn't hit it. I was like, it's fucking kicky. I'm over it. I don't want to deal with it. And then I just saw you out there hitting it and you were sizing it up with your boys. I'm like, Steve Caballero is about as moto as it gets. So I appreciate that.
Broken femur and all.
Yeah. So when did you do that femur?
That was 2019.
Okay. Was that hard to come back from?
Not really, to be honest. I meant... Well, I came back in about 4 months, doing all the PT, and, I was determined to come back. And to be honest, it made me realize how important it is to walk.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that I wanted to do, was just be able to walk and to be able to do things on my own. And being, laid up in the hospital for that long, it was definitely a reality check of what's important in life, you know? And so walking was my first, goal that I had. And then it was like, I'd love to get back to skating. I'd love to get back to riding mountain bikes and obviously moto. But coming from a skateboard background, I mean, I've been getting hurt my whole life. So getting hurt is like second nature to everything that I do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird when you don't come from this world. I guess, we've ridden motocross our whole lives, so very similar thing, like a broken arm's like, I broke my arm, it's a bit of an inconvenience, And then, like, my wife had nothing to do with motocross or any extreme sports, and it's like a huge deal, like a life-stopping, life-altering. And I'm just like, the perspectives that people have over those things, if you like come from this world and if you don't come from this world, they're completely different.
Yeah, I guess it's just your upbringing and basically what you've been through as a child, to know how much you can manage pain and experience pain. And because I was always kind of an outdoors person, and we didn't have the internet back then, we didn't have cell phones. Everything we did was outside,
Yeah.
you know. And so I hung out with the neighborhood kids up north where I grew up in San Jose, and just did kid things, you know. And luckily I didn't get in a lot of trouble, but I did put myself in dangerous situations, climbing trees, jumping roofs. I rode bikes before I even actually skateboarded, you know. So,
well, that was one of the things that I was very interested to learn doing the podcast, is like how you got into moto. Because like I said, you're not a casual moto rider. Like, you're a very real moto rider, and you know, you do stuff with Cowie, you've done stuff with Shift. Like, you're very, very deep in this game, and it almost seems from the outside looking in that moto is like your real love right now.
I mean, it is. It's part of my life. I've made it a part of my life. I'm a huge fan, first and foremost. I've always loved motorcycles. You can blame Evel Knievel for that. Back in the 70s.
Yeah.
You know, I used to try to make my bike look like a motorcycle, sound like one, with
Did you do like the cards and the spokes? Yeah.
The plastic tank on top of the the frame, and, you know, jumping garbage cans, pretending they were cars, going to the creek, and just riding bikes, and even trying to race back then, you know. And so two wheels have always captured my, you know, interest. But, you know, coming from where I lived, we weren't very wealthy, you know, so obviously affording a skateboard was much easier, and dreaming to ever have a motorcycle one day, you know, that was definitely on the plate. But it wasn't until I made money and became a professional at skateboarding that that dream looked like more like a reality, getting closer. But to be honest, I've always been a fan of motorcycles and dirt bike riding and everything, but I just never had a chance to do it. And it wasn't until I was on the Vans Warped Tour, which started around 95, 96, and we started getting some moto guys on our tour.
That's right. Yeah, they used to do the freestyle stuff.
Mm-hmm. And we had guys like actually jumping over our vert ramp.
Yes.
And we would hang out in our tour bus playing video games, and then here come Larry Linkogel and, you know, and Ronnie Feist and you know, Kerry Hart coming onto our bus and hanging out, and we just made friends with these guys. And, you know, I saw it every day on tour, to the point where I actually bought a 50 off one of the guys there. He brought 50s, and we were riding 50s on tour and trying to make makeshift jumps. And eventually, you know, I got talked into getting my first dirt bike and getting my first truck to haul the dirt bike in.
Yeah.
And that was
because it's the whole thing.
It was in 2000.
Yeah.
And I got a big wheel 80 because I'm pretty short.
Yeah.
And when I stood on a bike in the store, 125 was just not happening. Yeah. I was like, I can't even reach the ground. What am I going to do when I stop? I'm just going to flip over. So I got a big wheel 80, and that thing lasted for like 2 or 3 rides. And I'm like, man, this feels like just like a bicycle.
Yeah.
It felt really small. So then eventually I ended up getting a YZ 125, cut the seat down, lowered it, and finally I could reach the ground, and I felt like I had a real dirt bike. And I remember getting it, putting it in my truck, and just thought it was so cool, just driving around town with a dirt bike in the back.
Man, that's a real thing. Like, just to be a kid, I think it's so relatable. I mean, cool that you grew up in the 70s and Evel Knievel was like the guy that you looked up to. But yeah, I just think like that that rite of passage of like being a young kid that can't afford the bike, and then you work, and then you get it, and then you get the truck, and there's a whole thing that goes with it.
No, for sure. And, and I worked hard as a professional skateboarder to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so once I got that opportunity, the people that knew me through skateboarding started approaching me and offering me things, like the guys at Fox were huge. John Fox was a huge skateboard fan. So, he's like, hey, do you want some clothing? You want some stuff to go with your dirt bike riding? I'm like, yeah. So that's how I got my connection with Fox Racing at first, and then down the road, I met guys at Alpine Stars, and, so I did start getting a little bit of a hookup because of who I am in skateboarding. But then, like I said, I get fully into things, and I want to learn everything about the sport and what it takes to be a dirt bike rider. And so that's where I put my focus on. And I would go to the track and try to conquer everything that, I set myself in front of. And, because of skateboarding and because what I've learned through skateboarding, where you have to fail to succeed.
Yeah.
It's the same with dirt bike riding, but the consequences are much higher with dirt bike riding because they're going faster. You're jumping bigger jumps, and I paid my dues, man.
Yeah. So what was your progression like? I mean, I guess, did you have the normal starting point of a person that had never rode, or was the skating and you'd live like this action sports lifestyle? Like, were you able to kind of pick it up quicker than maybe most people?
I'm not sure I can compare myself to other people, but the way that I approach things, I kind of pick things apart, and I kind of try to focus on where my weak points are and how I can progress. And so, I know, like through skateboarding, how everything has a way to do it, and you have to figure it out, And so when I lived in NorCal, I started off at this place called Hollister Hills, which is basically a state park, and they would have a track there. So I learned how to ride a dirt bike and the fundamentals of getting loose but in control, using the back brake, using the front brake, learning how to jump, and learning what to do if you get in trouble while you're in the air. So those were techniques that I learned that helped me progress in riding. But it wasn't really until I moved down here where I became a weekend rider instead of once a month, maybe up north. My kids were old enough to want to start riding, and so I would take them every week. And I remember when I lived up north, when I only rode once in a while, I'd always have this like really weird feeling in my heart where my heart would be pumping. I'd have this nervous feeling of like, am I going to get hurt today? Because when I get hurt riding dirt bikes, it affects everything else in my life, especially my skate career.
Yeah.
And there's been times where I couldn't enter some contests, some really important skateboard contests, because I crashed on my dirt bike. And so I'd have my sponsors saying like, hey, can you mellow out on the riding before this contest coming up? Because, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very real thing. I got friends that do other sports, and their whole thing, like all they want to do is ride dirt bikes. And they're like, I just can't do it. It's just not in the cards for me right now.
Well, I know, like just seeing interviews of the pro motocross guys, I know that they get a lot of, lashback from doing other sports. Like I think maybe Ken Roxon have gotten, some like, hey, can you stay off this or don't do this because you're in riding season right now. So I know the guys have to train super hard and focus, and I understand the sport. I understand with everything that we do, it's so mental. I know in the sport of skateboarding, it's really 99% mental, and everything else is physical. Once you have the mental stamina to focus, you can get stuff done, but you can have all the talent in the world, but if your mind is telling you no, it's not happening today, you're not winning.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I've always respected so much about skating. Like, I've never really been a skater. I always loved skateboarding, like child of the X Games, like that generation, you know, and always would watch skating. But we never really skated. We rode BMX a lot. And I actually had a mini ramp in my backyard when I first moved to America. So I learned like a couple of things. But the respect that I have for skaters is through the roof. And maybe moto is more dangerous. Like, I feel like it's fairly easy to say moto's probably a more dangerous sport. But the slams and the commitment to hitting the ground that a skater has over and over and over again, there's something mentally to being a professional skater that I think is as gnarly as any other sport. It might not be the biggest risks. It might not be femurs and like that, you know, you might be staying out of the really gnarly waters, but in terms of what you sign up for as a skater, in terms of like the commitment to go try the trick, know that you're going to hit the ground extremely hard, like multiple times before you make the trick, that takes a special kind of person, I think.
It does. You have to be really resilient, you know, and you have to have a short-term memory because, you know, you have to get over the fact that, hey, I just got hurt last week, you know, and then once it heals, you move forward and you forget about the past, you forget about what happened. And that's kind of the same thing with my femur, you know, with dirt bike. I feel like right now I'm at my fastest on my dirt bike, and I broke my femur, 5 years ago, 2019. And then after I broke my femur, 10 months later, I broke my right ankle at Paula. So I had just gotten over this injury, and then here we go with another one. So it really set me back a lot with skating, and it really taught me a lot that skateboarding is so technical and anything can happen. Like, I'm more afraid of skating these days at my age. I'm turning 60 in November, and I feel like with skating, I'm more insecure and more fearful falling than I am riding my dirt bike again or riding a mountain bike. But yeah, skating is so technical that anything can go wrong in a second. Yeah. And the cement, it's hard. Yeah. You know, it hurts when you fall, and you know. It hurts when you fall when you're riding dirt bikes, because it's pretty hard too, but sometimes that soft loam, you know, when you fall on it. Yeah,
and a bit of momentum. And, you know, I feel like moto, there's a lot of forward, and skating, there's a lot of down, you know, and I feel like it's the down to stop that really gets you. Yeah.
I'm impressed when a lot of guys, I'm watching every weekend race, and those guys crash and they get back up, you know, and they get back on their bike, you know, that's a lot of grit, man, to hop back on that bike, because I know that they're hurting, you know, but they want to win, you know. So, I said, I have a lot of
crashes that Deegan had this year were just huge, man.
Like, huge. That one where he's helicoptering in the air.
Yeah. How was his aerial awareness? Like, you can, if you watch the slow-mo, like you can see him spotting the landing like multiple times. I'm like, that's pretty savage.
He must have a skateboarder mentality, because we're spot landings all the time.
Well, I think he did a lot of scooter and BMX when he was a
that's
kid.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
He was doing like backflips and 360s, and like, it's pretty valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that he stayed with motocross, and because he's good for the sport, you know, and his dad, I've known his dad for a while, and I used to ride with Deegan at Paula. You know, he'd be on the vet track. You know, I'd be racing around with him when he was little, you know, and to see him move up so quickly, it just shows the dedication that their family has put in to their son. And, you know, and I feel like Deegan is living his dream, you know, through his son.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's one of the reasons why there's been such a fan response to Hayden, because if you think about Southern California, all you guys have ridden with him since he was on a 50.
Oh, yeah. I've seen it.
You know, like everybody that was around Parler over the last 10 years has got to watch him grow up. And I mean, even just thinking back to myself and the people that were around our hometown that went pro. I mean, you always have a special place in your heart for those guys because there's like a weird relatability.
No, for sure. I've seen that family, you know, the process of them there all the time, and he's proved himself many times, you know, and just because people are famous and popular doesn't mean that they don't have the talent to back it up.
Yeah.
You know, and he has, you know, and you know, people will say like, you know, this has all been given to you and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, they just see the outside of, if you're with somebody 24/7, then you know all the hard work that they put in, you know, but you can't show all that to everybody. They just see the results, you know, and they don't know, like James Stewart for one, you know, I used to hear that he used to like fall asleep to races. Like he would watch races all the time and study them, where that he's watching the race and he's falling asleep and he's like probably dreaming and it's still hearing, you know, you know, so the dedication that he put in, you know, and I was a huge fan and when he was coming in to challenge Ricky Carmichael, you know, so I think Stewart is probably one of my most I liked him the best. You know, he's the only rider that's ever made me nervous for somebody, you know, because I wanted him to win so bad because I loved him as a person. I loved his style. I love what he brought to the sport. And I've never been a fan of any other rider like I have with James Stewart.
That's cool, eh? It's cool that someone can resonate with you that much.
Yeah.
And you being a professional athlete as well, like there would be something, like you were obviously seeing something in him in a deeper level than maybe most.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because, you know, he was a phenom. You know, he came out swinging and like I said, you know, obviously those battles between him and Ricky were insane, you know. I kind of caught the tail end of the Carmichael McGrath, you know. I didn't follow McGrath's career because I wasn't really into moto because I was full on skateboarding and that was my main focus. But as soon as I got a dirt bike in 2000 on, I've been a huge fan and I've been following it closely. And I've met so many people in the industry and to know that skateboarding is a connection between all of it, you know. And so I've met some, you know, pretty high people in the industry and have got into places because skateboarding had touched their lives.
Yeah.
And so what I brought to skateboarding had effect on them and they wanted to share their love, interest, and their passion and their careers with me. And so that's been a beauty and a blessing to me.
It's funny, when Brian was the last person I actually recorded with here, and he was telling me that you were one of his idols as a kid. Brian Deegan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You were
Awesome.
You were on his wall and he had all your skateboards and like he was saying,
Wow.
like, Steve Caballero was like one of the first people I was ever kind of into. Like he
Well,
was
that's
into
cool.
punk and skating and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's wild. Like you're obviously just like a normal, humble dude, you know, but there is like Steve Caballero is a whole thing. It's just like there's this
That's cool.
personality and, you know, what you did for skateboard. And it transcended, you know, like me as a kid, like I said, I didn't skate, but I was like a fan. You knew who you were. You knew what you were about. And yeah, you did have a crazy impact on so many people.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I did this autograph session at Toyota Escondido with a bunch of motocross guys. And I remember Dylan Ferrandis was there, you know, and I was a fan of him, you know, and the fact that he got a lot of grief for, you know, tangling up with Christian Craig, right?
Tangling up is one way to say it.
is racing. I know, I could tell he didn't do it on purpose, but it's just racing incident, you know, and I felt bad for him because I could feel the fans booing him after that racing. And it just breaks my heart, you know, and to see that kind of hate towards someone who's just is a racer and just wants to win just like everybody else. So I made, an effort to go up and say, hey, he was there, and I said, hey, I just want to say I'm a huge fan, and just give him some love.
Yeah.
And it was so funny that he said, oh, that's so amazing. I'm a big fan of you. I used to ride your skateboard before I got into motocross. And I'm like, whoa, man, I love you even more now. It's so cool that I had no clue that he was a skateboarder before he rode dirt bikes, and he had my signature model. So I was just like, man, that's cool, But like I said, it was cool to meet him. And then riding with him at Kahia one day, he's like, we're riding the main track, and he pulls up right next to me, and he gives me the thumbs up, and we're going off the jumps together. Those are really cool times,
man. I would hate to think like how many people would have had one of your skateboards growing up. So iconic, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. I met Mike LaRocco.
Yeah.
Like years ago, because we used to do a lot of the celebrity crossover races at the Supercross.
Yeah.
Pat Schutte is the guy that pretty much put that whole thing together, and we used to we were sponsored at the races with Suzuki.
Yep.
Suzuki would offer these stock bikes, and they get snowboarders and musicians and skiers and skateboarders to get together and ride Supercross tracks with. We had no business being on those tracks because we don't have access to them. Yeah. So it was very difficult to ride those tracks.
What bike was it?
A 125.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not easy to even roll a Supercross track on a 125.
No, and I remember meeting Mike LaRocco. I remember meeting him and his son at the Van Skate Park.
Yeah.
With Pat Schutte, and having him come to my place to skate. And to have him walk up the stairs and look down and go like, whoa, I can't, how do you like drop in on this ramp? And I'm looking at him like, dude, you do LaRocco's Leap.
It's named after you, bro.
Yeah. And I'm like, so that's him showing that same respect. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Nah, man. It's just, I just love to see how, genuinely stoked you are on like the moto community, and everyone embraces you so much as well. It's just like it's just such like a fun thing to watch, and it must be a trip, like when you're just a normal person. Like obviously you're Steve Caballero, the skater that's done all of these things and has been skating since the 70s. But then on just like a human level, you're like the dude that lives in San Diego County that plays music, and so like there is that human side of it, and it must just be a trip when those kind of like worlds collide.
No, it's amazing. And, we're all just normal people. We just have a talent because we put the work and effort into it. So I don't really place people on a pedestal, and I don't like when people put me on a pedestal that way. It gets kind of weird when people get, I it's an honor. I'm flattered when people get excited to meet me, but when they go a little bit overboard, it makes me embarrassed.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is when people come up and be like, "Hey, bro, I don't want to be that dude, but can you?"
But I'm like, gonna be that guy. Yeah.
Like so, I think it's all about being authentic.
Yeah.
And if you have a passion for something, I live it, I eat it, I breathe it. So I wouldn't treat anything less.
Yeah.
So if you see I'm into something, it's because I'm in 100%.
Yeah. Have you always been like that? That's just like a part of your personality?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is. Obviously I've tried surfing, but I haven't given it the time of day to become a great surfer. Just because it's, I don't know, maybe it's the water. It's so cold.
Yeah. Have you got a good wetsuit though?
I do, but I'm from up NorCal.
Yeah.
And so Santa Cruz water is freezing.
Really cold.
When you duck dive a wave, you get an ice cream headache.
Yeah.
That's how cold it is.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if my blood circulation is different than others, but I see my friends walk into the water and can sit there. It feels like pins and needles
in your hands and feet.
Yeah, it burns.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like, why is it not burning your feet, but my feet are burning? I have to get out.
Yeah.
And then I'd walk. So as far as skimboarding, was something that I was really into because it was something that was like you'd only get like barely of your body wet.
Yeah.
And you run in, run out, run in, run out. And so for me to get used to the water, I used to run in, run out until my feet got numb. Then I can actually enjoy running and being in the water. But I don't like the cold.
What's
hate
crazy?
it.
I have the same thing with my hands and feet.
Really?
People do ice baths and stuff.
Yeah.
So I can do the ice bath completely fine if my hands and feet aren't in there. But if my hands and feet are in there, it's just like someone smashed my
So you
feet
just dip
with
your bum in there?
just like feet out. But I used to surf in booties.
Okay.
So we never grew up surfing. We grew up in Cairns, which is like far northeast of Australia. And never surfed in my life until I moved to California. And then we'd drive from Murrieta to Oceanside every single day at 5 a.m. to
That's
surf.
awesome.
And in winter, I just ran the booties because I was the same deal. I just struggled, dude. So I think it is to do with circulation.
Yeah. And so the closest I've gotten to surfing is wake surfing.
Yeah.
That's been pretty fun off the back of a boat. And so I've gotten invited a couple times at the Carlsbad Lagoon and been able to surf the wake,
Yeah, that's really fun.
That's cool.
There is something about that personality type though, right? I feel as though I'm a little bit the same. Like I just get super obsessed and I'm just doing the thing because I love to do it. And, motocross has kind of always been that. And I spent my whole childhood being like, why am I so obsessed with this? Like I'm not even really that good at it, but I was just crazy obsessed with riding. And, obviously being a professional wasn't in my cards, so I ended up making a job out of it in a different way. But as I get older, I really think that's almost the secret to life, is just to find a passion, find something that you would do for free and do it for free until you're good enough for someone to pay you to do it, essentially.
Well, that, skateboarding wasn't something that I'd looked like I want to be a pro someday and make money because
there probably wasn't really anybody doing that at that stage.
Not really. It wasn't even a thing.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a job description.
No, not at all. It's like, if anything, when I was 15, when I first turned pro at 15 and I started making money, people would ask me what I did for a living. I'm like, I'm a professional skateboarder. And the first thing that came out of their mouth is, can you make money at that?
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, it turned into, are you on the X Games? And so now it's like, probably, are you going to be in the Olympics? So the respect over the years has come, but I think because of our society, money dictates that. So people don't respect, even parents, even the grandparents that don't have any knowledge about sports or art forms. There's a lack of respect. Even like in jobs, there's a lack of respect because everyone attaches a dollar sign to it.
Yeah.
And if there's a huge dollar sign to it, then it must be great.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Is there any money in that? And when you have that kind of mentality, I don't know.
It's a little bit toxic.
It is. We
were talking yesterday. This is very random, but exactly what we're talking about. So every single kid that I know just loves the trash truck. Every kid. We were staying with, I don't know if you've ever met Wes Williams, but he's like the Verb Moto guy and filmer. But we were staying with him all through like January. And man, every time the trash truck come by, the kids just run to the front and they're like cheering the dude on. And then yesterday, a friend of ours, she was talking to one of her girlfriends and then like the trash truck came and the kids running. And that is probably the most shit on job in America.
Oh, really?
Like if you say to someone, "Oh, I'm a trash truck driver."
Yeah.
No one's going to be like, "Oh, okay, that's amazing."
Yeah.
It's not. I'm sure many women are out there trying to date trash truck drivers, but it's like at one point in time, that guy's the coolest dude in the world. But like you said, a society comes along and kind of like dictates that it's not that cool. But realistically, what's better than a dude that comes and like takes all of your trash and just like cleans it up for you? Like, don't worry, bro, I got you.
Yeah, I never put down anybody that works hard and does something for a living because we need these people.
Yeah.
The people that you look down upon, you need them even though you look down upon them, So I think everyone should be respected in that way, that at least they're out there working and doing something instead of being idle and not do anything at all.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like so the one thing that always confused me in the, you know, the normal 9 to 5 thing is like, oh, I'm overqualified for that job. It's like, what do you mean overqualified? I don't get that term. I didn't get the job because I was overqualified.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. That is
That is a crazy term.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, you mean what you're trying to say is they're not going to pay me enough what I deserve, what I
think I'm
deserve.
worth. Yeah.
You know, and that's a whole nother topic.
There's a whole thing about failing up too.
Yeah.
Where you see these people in businesses, and it's one of the things that just would drive me crazy about like working for a company or a corporation. You just see people that are good at their job, they stay in their job forever. They never get promoted and they never get demoted. But the people that get into a position and suck at it, well, they can't fire them because then that's a HR nightmare, but they can't do this job. So let's just promote the person to a place where they can't fuck this bit here up. And you just see people just fail upwards in business and just end up in these like upper management positions and they just fully can't do their job at all. You see that so many times.
Yeah, I've never been a part of that, so I don't know too much about it. I just know that you know, I'm a entrepreneur. And you know, I've never had a manager.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty much managed my whole career.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the business side of it, or it was something that it was just like you didn't want a manager, so the business is something that you kind of had to do?
I just managed it as much as I could. You know, obviously I probably lost a lot of opportunities not having a manager go out and shop for me and get, you know, other opportunities like, you know, being with a firm, you know, but it's okay. I like my life. I like where it's gone. I love all the opportunities. Even where I am at, you know, my fame, I think I can handle the fame of it. If I was even more famous and more people wanted a piece of me, it might get kind of irritating and might get kind of annoying to always having to give something to somebody because they recognize you. Like when I go to like events with Tony Hawk, you know, we're in the airport, you know, I have these people following him. I can see it and I know they're not skaters, but they just know him because he's famous.
Yeah.
And they just he can't go anywhere. And so I could tell, like with movie stars or huge rock stars, they just can't go anywhere without someone wanting a selfie or an autograph. And it's, you know, it's gotten even more gnarlier since we do have cell phones that you can take a photo with somebody.
Yes.
And so you're just getting bugged 24/7 and you don't have a life for yourself. It's like you get to this place where you owe everybody attention.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously, you know, it's nice to be famous. It's nice to be recognized. But then there's times where you just want to be to ourselves, you know, and you can't just turn that off and on when you go out in the public.
Yeah.
You know, you can hide in a cabin in the woods or go on the beach or something and get away from people or, you know, but it's hard to do. And so, like I said, you know, everyone strives to be super famous, but when they get there, they can't handle it.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to really think about that as a young person. It's like, do you see these people, you see what they have, you see what they do, you see how much they're loved, but are you willing to put up with that once you get there?
Yeah.
And I've seen skateboarders fall off because they can't deal with the fame and what it takes to be in that position.
Man, it's like the realest thing, eh? Like even, so we had I went back to Australia in July and I was like, I'm just going to go back, do a couple months in, you know, family and all that sort of stuff. We got a warehouse in Australia and that's where our studio is. And that's where like the first 5 years of the show was there.
Yeah.
And so went back there, did like 6 shows. All of August was done. We were just like, you know, the machine was pumping.
Yeah.
And then our warehouse burned down.
Whoa.
Lost everything. Lost the studio.
Yeah.
Lost all my hard drives. Lost all my backups.
Wow.
Everything I've ever done, except everything that wasn't in this room, gone completely.
Wow.
And so we had all these shows that were unreleased that we were working on. and nothing. So then I'm like, well, I'm taking a month off. Like I'm taking time off until we can kind of get rolling again.
Yeah.
And we didn't post anything. I don't have Instagram on my phone, and not that I wouldn't say that I fall in like the famous category, but especially when you hear it's like it's a lot. Every track you go to, every race that you go to, every airport that you go to, like you're reminded constantly that you're a thing to other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just not that to myself. Like I guess you get caught up in a bit when you're posting and you're kind of like doing all of it. But man, to just take that month off and just to not do anything, to not post anything, to not have like any conversations about it, it was actually a little bit of it was like almost a bit of a shock to the system of like, man, this is such a weird thing that you actually do. Like you just constantly put this shit out on the internet for millions of people to see. And yeah, I would say as well, like I've got a pretty good level of notoriety to where it's like, if I want to go to a supercross race, I can go to a supercross race, and you know, you get to have good seats, and you know, there's like some perks to it. But I also have friends that they are in the can't leave the boat,
Right.
Can't leave the houseboat, and yeah, you wonder how good that would be for how long. And you think of like a Justin Bieber or a, you know, like, and you would just end up living in such a different world to normal people, you know, and it's just like, it would shape your entire worldview in such a weird way.
My daughter just taught me not to use the word normal.
Yeah, true.
So it's like, when did that become a bad word? You know, because we got in a little argument at the grocery store the other day because I was trying to find something that she was looking for. So she wanted to find these pens that you use, bleach pens, to get
like
stains out.
Yep.
So we're at Target and I'm trying to help her, but she's not asking the people in the red suits.
Yeah.
At Target, I'm like, why aren't you asking these people? You're trying to find something, you can't find it, and she walks away. So I go and I find someone and say, hey, where are these bleach pens at? Oh, it's back here. You know, so I go back there and look and I find them. I call her up. I'm like, where are you? Because she's in other part of the store. And where are you? And she's like, I'm looking for other stuff. Well, I found your bleach pens. I go, if you would have just asked a Target person like a normal person would, right?
Yeah, triggered.
Oh my goodness. When she came back, she had the like sourest look on her face. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I say? I said something. She's super bummed. And so we got in the car and I go, babe, did I hurt your feelings? She goes, yeah. I go, what? She goes, it's when you said, why didn't you do this like normal people? And for me, that's like, I've been saying that my whole life, and then people didn't get offended, but now it's like, but it did teach me something about getting frustrated and just something blurting out of my face. So I learned something and how to talk to my own daughter and not to hurt her feelings, because I basically her dad saying you're not normal, you know, and so that was a learning experience for me.
And like, what is normal?
I know.
It's a good question to ask. Like, really, what is normal?
Well, I've had people being like, "Oh, like, what do you do for a living?" I'm a fresh graduate. Oh, so you don't have a normal job, huh?
Yeah.
And I'm like, And so even that's like like, what do you mean normal job? Like, I don't want to have a normal job.
Yeah.
I rather be abnormal.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I want to be different. I don't want to, it's this whole comparison thing, it's like, that's normal, that's abnormal. I guess it's just whatever you're into and what floats your boat, but there's some things that are beneficial for you and some things that aren't. And the wiser you are as a person, that these things that aren't beneficial for you are going to affect you later, but they're very pleasing to the eye and the taste right in front. But a lot of people don't learn that until they're older. I'm like I said, I'm going to be 60, so I have a lot of years under my belt of experiences, and it makes me, it hurts when people don't trust what I have to say, you know, because when I'm giving advice, it's not to like hurt anyone, but it's to try to help.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had people like be like, you know, I don't need your unsolicited advice. It's like, whoa. It's like, I'm just trying to help you.
Yeah.
You know, you can't see a problem. I can.
It is hard though. Like, man, I kind of had a bit of a motto, like you can't coach people, you know, because there's so many times where you'll try and, give people quote unquote unsolicited advice. And you're like, man, I'm just looking at this from like a objective perspective. Obviously you're too in it to see. And
You just have to watch what you say, like, especially on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, it's gnarly. You know, I had said something about a situation where this guy was saying how his mother was abused and couldn't get out of a relationship. And I was like, well, you know, if she didn't get out, I think maybe she was a little unwise. And he got really offended that I said that his mother was unwise. And I'm like, what's the more softer word of telling someone that they're, I could be like, I could use the word dumb, stupid, ignorant.
Yeah.
But I try to use the softest word, like unwise. Like, what's even softer than that?
Yeah.
You know, to tell somebody, hey, you're in this situation, but you're not smart enough to get out of it because you can't see the red flags or the triggers. Yeah. And, you know, trying to explain like, well, no, it was just impossible. Nothing's impossible. When there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And people just want to push blame and don't hold themselves accountable.
Yeah.
And so like I post stuff all the time on the internet, and man, the backlash I get for everything that I post, you know, and I've deleted and blocked so many people on social media because when I'm posting things, I just want to inspire people in a positive way, and someone will just see that and just take it negative.
Yeah.
Based on their own personal experience. And then they'll interpret what I said to what they're thinking. And I have to, like, did you read the whole post?
Yeah.
And I didn't say one thing about that. And so I've gotten a lot of backlash with that. So just being in the public, that's a job in itself.
Yeah.
You know, and I try my best.
And there's no playbook for it either. You know, like really, I think the best action is almost like no action most of the time. Just like, don't read it, don't look at it, don't reply, just nothing. Like, there's the saying like, once that you put art out there, it's no longer yours. And you know, I do think that's true to a certain extent.
Well, people don't want to be criticized or judged, but we get criticized and judged our whole life. There's no hiding behind that. Whatever you do or present, people are not going to like it. So the biggest lesson I've learned in life is you can't please everyone. Mm-hmm. And just keep living your dream and doing. And the best advice that I ever got from my dad is like, just do anything you want, be anything you want. Just don't hurt people. You know, I support you, whatever you do. But just don't do things that are going to be hurtful to people. And so I always, you know, thought about that. And so it never stopped me from my interest in things that I'm into. And so, you know, I've always had this positive mental attitude to just focus on the positive and not the negative. And to the point where people are like, you can't just be positive your whole life. I'm like, yeah, you can. Mm-hmm. You know? No, you can't. You just can't. And I go, well, maybe you can't, but I'm trying.
Have you always been like that?
Not always, but you know, our whole life is just a learning experience. You know,
for sure.
It's a lesson every single day. You know, and I've had, you know, people tell me it's like, does everything to you have to be a lesson? You know, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, that's what life's about. If you're not learning, you're not living. You know, and I feel like I'm going to learn so much more, even in my 60s, things I don't know about, you know? And you should too.
Yeah.
You know, you should too. Have an open mind and don't knock it if you haven't tried it, you know? At least try it, give it a chance. If it's not for you, it's not for you. Everything's not for everybody, you know? And so like I say, surfing's not for me.
Yeah. Cold
I
water,
could force
not for me.
it. I could force it, but maybe one day, who knows, but
What did your parents do?
my dad was a printer and my mom was pretty much a housewife.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest of 5.
Oh,
So I
right.
have three older brothers and an older sister. And so I was the youngest. And my closest brother was 5 years. So even though
Wow, that's a big gap.
yeah, a huge gap.
Yeah.
And so that made me feel like an only child.
Yeah.
So I have a documentary coming out. We're working on it
amazing.
right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, and my oldest brother and my sister are being interviewed next week. And so they're going to tell their stories about how I grew up. They probably remember more about my childhood than I do.
Yeah.
I've done so much in my career, and it's just hard I don't have the mental capacity to remember every single thing. So everything that happened in the past gets faded away.
Yeah.
And I only remember, I can only imagine getting older. I'm going to lose so much more, but there are things that I do remember, and I'll never forget, and so I'm excited about working on this project. My friend Manny Sandoval is a producer and a filmer, and I think it's going to be a cool film, not just about me, but about skateboarding in general, and how skateboarders think, and the impact that it has had on the community and the environment. But then, you just always have to remember that, it doesn't matter what you're into and how famous you are. You're just a speck in this world. Like, there are people that don't even know you, that have never even heard of you.
Oh, yeah.
A mile away.
Yeah.
Rodney Mullen said it best. It's like, you could go to a demo where there's thousands of people cheering you on, drive 5 miles, and no one even ever heard of you before.
Yeah.
So don't let that get to your head. You're only as big as you think you are.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that is like the good level of fame. Like, fame, there's a U curve, right? So it's like you got 0 fame at all, and then you got a little bit, and then it's like up on this line is like good, and then you can get too much fame, and then it just starts going down back basically to 0. So like this end of the spectrum is like you've got all the fame in the world and it sucks, and then this side is like you have no fame in the world and it sucks. And there's definitely like a point where the curve flips. But I think like that's the good level to have it, where it's like you can go to a place. So for me, it's like Angel Stadium, A1, January 7. I go there. That's like peak where people would know who I am. If I go across the road and get food, no one fucking knows a single thing about me.
Right.
And it's like, that's not a bad place to be. But if you are the guy where you can be there and then you go there and there and there and there and everyone knows who you are, that sucks, I'm sure.
Well, I meant like, you just have to stay balanced as a person and to realize that, you know what, you're not that important. But on the other hand, you're very important.
Yeah.
To an individual.
Yeah.
And we all, people always say, man, you're such an influential person. You've influenced generations, blah, blah, blah. Everybody influences somebody somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just at different levels. And what I've learned in my lifetime, it's all about being satisfied. And that is where peace and joy comes into your heart. When you're willing to be satisfied with the most minimal things in life, that's where your true joy and happiness will be. Fame and fortune isn't going to bring you that happiness and that joy, because it's a proven fact. We've seen over the years documented of famous rich people committing suicide. Why would you want to do that? I mean, people want what you have and you're still not happy.
Yeah, I think that is the ultimate lesson when you see, like, I'm a huge Linkin Park fan. It's my favorite band of all time.
Same.
Oh, epic.
Same.
So I
Chester.
saw him, I reckon 15 times. Like when they were touring, when I first lived here, they did like 3 or 4 tours, and I was going to like 3 stops a tour.
Yeah.
Just following them around I think he's one of the best live performers of all time. I saw him in Australia, like everywhere. And he had a bunch of kids. He had a bunch of wives, ex-wives. They had like a community kind of vibe going on. He was tied the Beatles for the number one albums. Like the dude had everything, and he killed himself. So it's like there's a lesson that is not the thing that makes you happy. Because if it was those external things, like he was the guy that had everything. You know?
What lesson did you get out of it?
I guess that
his life. What did you take away from that?
I think that I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's like there's probably a certain level of demon that you can't outrun, and that's okay. You know, like I think like he was a very tortured person, obviously.
Well, you could hear it in his lyrics.
Yeah. And I've got a friend that was actually close friends with him, and he said that his entire life he was basically suicidal. You know, and I think that there's like, at least for me, I think the lesson is in compassion for other people's struggles. And like I obviously could never understand what he went through, but I would have to respect the fact that he couldn't outrun the things that had followed him around his entire life. And like, it's got to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes people make it seem like it's like very selfish and like life goes on and, you know, you shouldn't have done that. But I don't know, like maybe there's a level that you just can't get past, and maybe that was the right thing for him.
To kill himself?
Maybe, yeah. Like it'd be very hard for me to understand, like from, you know, people telling me, like from friends with him that said like he was suicidal his entire life.
Yeah.
So to fight that for years and years, and like he left no stone unturned. Like he reached the highest heights.
Yeah.
He reached the fame, he reached the fortune, he had the family, he did all of those things, and if he still couldn't outrun it, then like what's left for him to go? So I guess, I don't know if it makes sense, but that's like what I took from it.
Okay. I have a different outlook on that.
I would love to hear it.
Yeah. So the one thing that he didn't have was God. And I feel like even in my own life, I can attest to that. And I feel like people who don't have a spiritual need or lifestyle, I feel like everything else gets in the way. And you're chasing all these things that you think are going to bring you joy and satisfaction. And once you reach those, they still don't.
Yes.
So I feel like one of the main questions that people probably have is like, who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose in life? You know? And so people are chasing that their whole life, and maybe their parents teach them what that is, or maybe the streets teach them what that is, or maybe books teach them what that is. But some people never attain that knowledge and wisdom because there's so many distractions out there that are telling you this is what's going to make you happy. Yeah. This is what's going to bring you joy. And so social media or whatnot, or television or whatever, radio.
Just like popular culture, essentially.
Culture's trying to show you what brings you happiness. Ads on TV. This is going to make you happy if you just obtain this. And so when you grow up in a life that's godless and no spirituality behind it, you don't really get a true sense of what is important in your life. And when I can speak for myself, because I was a late bloomer, becoming a Christian and giving my life over to Jesus and following that route, that I finally realized, and now I feel more freer than ever. I feel like everything I do is just kind of like an icing on the cake. It's like if something happens to me, I'm like, I don't really care about it. If I lose everything that I ever had, I don't really care about it because that's not what's important to me. What's important to me is my relationship with God and what He tells me what's important. And so when I have that sense of security anything goes. If someone passes away, I understand why that happened. I look at their life and it's like, well, yeah, you live this way. This is the result.
Yeah.
Then it's all about choice. Other people's bad choices can ruin someone's great life because they made bad choices. So I always feel like we are people who are born with a free will to choose bad or good. Sometimes you're choosing good in your head, but it's bad. It's bad later on, you know? So I don't believe that things happen by chance. There are always different people make different choices throughout the day. I mean, there's been movies about that where people have made certain decisions and leading up to this climax of like something happening because of this happened like years ago or whatnot. And so it's our whole lives are a bunch of decision-making things that we do constantly in our head, other people. So we're all in this together. And sometimes people will make a wrong decision and it'll change a person's life completely. That's why I don't believe in karma. You know, people say like, oh, you do good things happen to you. Well, what if I do good things all my whole life and something bad happens to me? Then how does that work with karma? If I never did one bad thing in my whole life and now you're going to blame it on karma because, well, you did that one bad thing when you were 2 years old and now you're losing your job.
I think karma for me is probably like I think of it, first of all, you're completely right. Like you can do the best things all the time and just get hit by a bus. And it's just like, well, how does that work? But I like to think of it as like probability. So if you're like, life is a game of chance, essentially. Like there is an element of just like random and somebody else's choices that they make. Like a drink driver is the best example, right? Someone making a terrible choice to drink drive and then kills someone in an intersection or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I think the version of karma I guess I can get behind is like, so there's this roll of the dice every day that you walk out the door, but the more positive energy and good vibes and the more good that you can put out into the world, I think that you're just trying to get the odds more in your favor. You know what I mean? And it's like, so the more shitty things that you do, I feel like the better odds you're going to have of having shitty things happen to you.
It's called reaping and sowing.
Yeah.
What you reap is what you sow. So if you're going to sow into a bad attitude or bad lifestyle, you're going to reap those benefits of that.
Yeah.
If you sow into good attributes, you're going to reap the goodness. But that's not a security thing. You know, life is a gamble, and every day I wake up, so nothing surprises me. And so like, do you know who Dave Mura is?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, his whole deal and who he was and what he became and then what he was striving for. And then, the end result, I talked to him. His wife had him call me on the phone because she read something that I wrote that it was a positive message and something that was uplifting. And she goes, you should call Cab, So he called me and I talked to him, But when I was talking to him, I could tell he was lost. Yeah. I could tell that he didn't know where he was going.
Have, like, purpose.
No, and we're talking the Miracle Boy. Yeah. We're talking X Games champion, wife, 2 kids, the American dream or whatever you want to call it, house and still unhappy.
Yeah.
Still not fulfilled, still not satisfied, so like you said, demons, something saying, hey, you know what? Lying, convincing you'd be better off dead.
Yeah.
And that's a lie. It's that he would not be better off dead. The people around you would not be better off. Yeah. He had something to give. And not only, obviously he was, I want to say selfish because, look what he left behind, a wife and 2 kids, making a selfish decision. I feel a wrong decision. because remember we talked about that earlier. That was the right thing to do. I don't think that was the right thing to do for him. And when I was talking to him, I could tell he was lost, but not in a fact where he would go that far.
Yeah.
You know?
I wonder with him though how much of it came down to the concussion stuff.
And that's another thing.
That's
another thing. I hear that as an excuse.
Yeah.
You know, people like to bring up, well, this is the reason why he did it. People get concussions all the time. Doesn't mean that it's going to make you want to end your life. You're sad.
Have you seen some of the CTE stuff with like the football players and that? I wish I could remember. There was a guy that played for the San Diego Chargers, and he was one of like the first guys that.
Was he famous?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's life after football?
Probably pretty boring in comparison.
Pretty bummed out, right?
I get that, but there's like I think with this guy, like they literally he basically like wrote a suicide note and said like, hey, I'm going to drive myself off a cliff in San Diego. And he's like, you need to study my brain because like there's something wrong with me. Like I changed. Yeah. There's something that changed in my brain. And then I'm pretty sure that was the first ever like CT brain that they like took, because you can't, obviously when somebody's alive, you can't take their brain out and make sure that it's like not damaged. But yeah, they just said he had like massive damage all over his brain, and he basically just went from being like a normal, he was like a big Samoan guy, and he was just like that big happy Samoan dude to just like straight up suicidal. And there's been other cases of
did he have a spiritual life?
I can't remember. I'm not sure. But there's even cases of guys that there was a guy that did like a mass shooting, and he wrote a suicide note saying like, I think you guys, like I'm doing this. I can't not do this. I wish I could stop myself from doing this. I need you to please study my brain because I think there's something wrong with me. And they found like a massive tumor in this dude's brain. So I just think the brain's such a crazy thing to deal with in fringe cases. You know what I mean? Like there is some cases where it's just like there's something actually wrong with the wiring of this thing.
Well, the brain is very influential, and you'll be following things that that your brain is telling you. And so it's. You have to watch out what you ingest into your intake in your brain, not only just your body, but your mental awareness. And there's influences out there, and I totally believe that there's good and there's bad. Yeah. Even just in people, there's good influences and there's bad influences. They're not spiritual beings, they're human beings, but I also so believe that there's spiritual battles out there that want to destroy and tell you this is the right, and lie to you. We're humans. I'm not going to say I've never lied in my whole life, but because I have. I don't think anyone has never not lied, but people lie to themselves.
Oh, every day. That's me every day.
So I don't know, I just know that there's stuff out there that people don't know. Yeah.
For sure.
And if they were clued in, they'd get a better grasp on what life is about and what it takes to be happy and fulfilled. And some people will never, ever experience that based on their ego, their pride, their selfishness, their humility, if they have any, their openness to learn, to discover, and the willing to submit and to adhere to something that is way bigger than them. And so I feel like, and that's what I have in my life, and that's what fulfills me, and that's what makes me even push even further of everything that I do and understand why things happen. There's a lot of things that happen in this world that people just don't understand. But I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on why these things are happening, So like you said, I feel like the whole concussion thing takes away from the whole spirituality thing.
Yeah,
I feel like that
a little bit less
that's okay. This is the problem.
Yeah.
He just hit his head so many times, So everybody that hits their head, they want to kill themselves. I don't believe that.
Yeah. No, I think that's
I've hit
fair.
my head lots of times. Have I gotten concussions? I've had 2 major concussions. One was actually from when I broke my femur, 2019, and then one was in 1980 when I wasn't wearing a helmet and I skated a backyard pool and I woke up on the ground like, where am I? So I've had 2 major ones. But when it comes to like professional sports, football, basketball, baseball, these stars, they're great at who they are and what they do. But what is their life after that? How are they looked at? How are they appreciated? What is their contribution to, society? Do they feel worthy anymore? Because anytime you don't feel worthy about yourself, you're out of here.
Yeah.
If you don't feel worthy of who you are and appreciated, why would you want to be around?
Yeah.
But as long as you feel loved, appreciated, and worthy, it's like relationships break up all the time because there's either the woman or the man, they don't feel worthy, respected, and loved. And that has to be communicated. And when it is communicated, but it's not, what's the word?
Like reciprocated.
Reciprocated. Then that's when things fall apart. And so your whole life can fall apart if you don't have that mentality, that focus and understanding of who you are as a person and your importance in life. And God has really shown me how important I am.
Yeah, and I think to speak about the athletes and, like athletes or entertainers or whatever, like there's definitely a hard road that you have to walk if you don't do the work before it's over, I think, in terms of just knowing, like, okay, people aren't going to care. Like Dave Mirra, people wouldn't have cared about Dave Mirra in the same way as they would have in 99. And it's like you have this long life that you have to live where, like, you're not the man, you're not competing, you don't have, like, people just all over you at all times. Like, I'm sure that would be quite a hard transition for people to go through if you just weren't aware that it was a transition that you were going to have to go through.
Well, it was a false reality.
Exactly.
It's a false reality. The fame and fortune, that's all fake. It's not real life, It's a persona, and people put these personas all the time on Instagram. You look at, I try to put my best foot forward every time I'm, if I'm on my dirt bike and I'm jumping a jump, I'm going to put the best jump on there. If I'm trying to whip, I'm going to try to whip it the best. You're not going to put your weakest one, right? Because you want to always look good.
Yeah.
And that's what that platform is for, to make you look good, to make you sound good. And I'm guilty of it too. I try to put the best, even in my comments, I try to put my best comments, because if I don't, I'm going to get judged and criticized from it. And so when you put yourself out there, be ready to be judged and criticized in anything. So are you tough enough? Are you strong enough? Are you secure enough in your own self to have all these people lash at you in a negative way? Can you handle that? That takes a lot of, I don't know, it takes a lot.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
So do you remember the first time you ever saw Evel Knievel?
Yeah, I probably saw him in, probably on Wide World of Sports, in magazines. I saw the commercials with the game, with the little winder with the motorcycle. And,
like the toy.
The
thing.
toy,
the
Energizer, on the news. He was somebody of importance. He was somebody, an icon, somebody that was pushing the limits, doing things that someone else wasn't doing. There had been other people trying to copy what he did, and also paid the price for trying to emulate. And I feel like that happens all the time, But he stepped out of the comfort zone and did something, that people would probably been like, what are you doing? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
You know, but he stood out in a way that inspired generations. Today still inspires generations. And, you know, and I feel like that's been my calling as well, is the things that I've done. I've been able to inspire so many people, and even to the point where, like, I'll be at an art show or something, and I'll have this lady come up to me like, "Man, I've been following you on Instagram, and you post the most inspirational things all the time." And so, just that one lady that comes up to me, she's not talking about motocross. She's not talking about music, art, skating. She's talking about something I wrote that was inspirational and heartfelt, and so that brings me joy, and so. That's what makes me want to keep doing what I'm doing, because I'm inspiring people in a positive way.
Yeah.
And
So he was one of the first people that inspired you, do you think?
of course, him and Bruce Lee.
Yeah, okay.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
I've been watching those kung fu movies, and he just kicked everybody's butt. and with style.
Yeah.
You know, and he was a superstar, you know, and he was someone who took his art to another level. And he was creative in a way where he brought other fighting styles into his own and created his own. And I feel like skating's the same way. I feel like music's the same way. Art's the same way. Is you just borrow from other people.
Yeah,
and
like
then
the thing that resonates with you, and
Yeah.
then you turn it into, like, internalize that in yourself.
Yeah, and that's how I treat everything. You know, with art, I've gotten good enough where people want to hire me to do art for them and do collaborations, but I'm just borrowing from certain things. I'm not that creative, but I can borrow this from here, and then combine it together and make it my own, you know? And so that's how I feel like skateboarding has gotten so popular and progressed at different levels, because we took one guy's style and add a different guy's style and made up our own tricks. And that's how I was able to invent my own tricks as a young skater. And that's what I knew that would make you stand out. And, you know, if you want to be a winner, you have to stand out, you know, and you have to work harder than the next person next to you. And I know, and it's a lot of lonely nights, lonely days of just you and what your goal you're trying to set for yourself, and people don't see that.
No.
You know, they don't see that. They only see the end result, and they want that end result. They want that, but they're not willing to put the work and effort into it. And so my life, you know, I do all this now, and I'm a single dad, full-time single dad. So I'm balancing being a parent at the same time as you're seeing everything that I post on Instagram, and I'm like, how long is this thing going for? Because I have to pick up my kids from school.
What time do you got to get out of here?
No, I don't have to be, since my son drives now and he can drive himself to and from school, which is, yay, I'm stoked as a parent.
Yeah.
Scared that he has his own license and now he's on his own, but, you know, as a parent caring for his own child. But now I only have my daughter to pick up. I only have to pick up till 3:30.
Yeah, cool.
But so the time limit that you gave me is perfect.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm balancing my life, this podcast, being a parent as well.
Yeah,
so I am a normal dude.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a father 3 times. You know, I've been married twice. You know, I'm not proud of having those marriages fail, but there were learning experiences to me. And so, like I said, you know, everything's not always going to work out. And even though something fails, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Relationships, jobs, careers, you name it, you know, it's not the end of the world. And so what skateboarding has taught me is you have to fail to succeed. Everything is a learning experience. And if you can learn from everything that you failed from, you can get to that next level of something productive.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm still working that right now as far as relationships go, because, you know, I've had 2 girlfriends since I've been divorced, and, you know, they didn't last long because they failed. But, you know, it takes 2 to tangle, you know, and it's not always one person's fault, you know. But if people aren't willing to grow and be held accountable, then things don't move forward. And that's the big thing with me right now, is like accountability.
Yeah.
And so being a spiritual person, God holds me accountable all the time. So when I go to church and I feel convicted about something, that's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. I love to be convicted by God because I know that I'm not on the right path. And as a parent who loves his children, and as God is my father, he just wants the best for me. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's what I want for my kids. And I try to teach them that. But as teenagers, do you have kids?
Nah, not yet.
That's a whole nother level, bro.
Oh man.
A whole nother stress, a whole nother responsibility. So try managing doing what you're doing and having a kid and bringing up your child the best way that you can.
Stresses me out. I'm not gonna lie. I think we're probably like getting semi close to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the best thing in the world, and it's one part of life that if someone has never experienced it, they haven't not experienced life to its fullest. Yeah. And I feel like having a family, having kids, I've experienced life to its fullest.
Well, I think when you said accountability before, like I think that's a pretty big word in my vocabulary, or like in terms of the way that I try and focus my life. And I know that I get the best out of myself when I have like almost load myself up with accountability. And I think that's why the podcast has kind of helped me, because you say things on there, you come across as a certain person. It's like, okay, dude, like you need to be that person, And I think that you get rewarded in life for the accountability that you take. Like you look at a guy like Steve Jobs. He was the face of Apple. He was the guy. Everyone knew it was him. The success of the company was on him. The failure of the company was on him. And I just think that there's such a powerful form of leverage in accountability. But I think that it's the same in your day-to-day life. Like if you can, I think a lot of times in my life where things weren't going amazing for me, it's because I was kind of like shying away from accountability and not letting people hold me accountable. So I honestly think it's a key concept. And if people have never really thought about what accountability means to them and their life, like they're kind of actually missing something that's fairly important.
Very important. And if you have those people in your life, it's only going to help you.
Because naturally you want to push back, right? Someone's trying to hold you accountable. Someone's trying to, and like in layman's terms, someone's trying to call you out on your bullshit.
Right.
And it's very hard to be the kind of person that can stand there when your wife's telling you like, you did this and you did that and it's fucking lame, and to actually be like, swallow your pride.
Yeah.
Look at your ego, be like, okay, I get it. The ego wants to lash out and the ego wants to defend himself and, get that defensive, the hair on the back going up. But it's just like, no, I'm being held accountable. This is actually a good thing, and go forward, from there. It is important to me that supplements I take are of the highest quality, and that's why for years now I've been drinking AG1. Unlike many supplement brands, AG1 conducts relentless testing to set the standard for purity and potency. Quality for AG1 isn't just a buzzword, it's a commitment backed by expert-led scientific research, high-quality ingredients, industry-leading manufacturing, and rigorous testing. I know I can trust what's in every scoop of AG1 because it's tested for 950 contaminants and banned substances, while the industry standard typically only tests for 10. I love that every scoop of AG1 includes probiotics, prebiotics, and digestive enzymes for gut support, rhodiola and B vitamins for energy support. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs at drinkag1.com/gypsytales. Check it out.
It's a good thing for everybody, and I think accountability and humility go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And when you're humble, you're able to hear what people have to say about you, and then step back and be like, is what they're saying true?
Yeah.
And then let me ask somebody else, and then if it kind of matches up, then yeah, okay, you are. But it all comes down to trust. It always comes down to trust. Whoever you trust in your life, you will listen to. Doesn't matter who it is. So for me, I trust God. So I listen to everything that he says, what's best for me in my life. And so it can go in relationships. If your wife does not trust you, she's not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
If you don't trust your wife, you're not going to listen to her.
Yeah.
And vice versa, So my kids, sometimes I have to tell them, like, it's very hurtful that I tell you something and you don't trust what I have to say is true.
Yeah.
It's a very hurtful thing. And what it says in scripture, it says love always trusts. That means if you want to know what love is, you want to be a loving person, then trust everybody. That's how you show love. If someone betrays you, it happens. But at least you love them to that point. It's like, it's like, I'm not going to trust you till you prove yourself of your trust. That doesn't work like that. You trust everybody. But then you're wise enough to know who and who not to trust by analyzing that person and their life and how they live. Obviously, you're not going to trust someone who lives like dangerously, and has a bad, it's like, okay, I'm not going to trust that person because look how that person's living and look where they're at.
Yeah.
Am I going to take advice from that person? So like I said, you are going to trust anyone that you're going to listen to anyone that you trust. And so a very loving thing to do for your partner, for someone that's in your family, is to trust them. That's how you show true love.
Yeah.
It's an unconditional love.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'd agree with that for sure. So you see Evel Knievel and you see these people that I guess, and Bruce Lee, like how does that then translate into you going into skating and the way that you, I guess, ended up, because you're somebody's Evel Knievel. You know what I mean? So there's this transition of that you were inspired by these people, and then, as you fast forward 35, 40 years later, you're kind of like one of those guys. But I guess what mark did they leave that made you want to kind of be your own person in that way?
Just knowing that they're just human beings just like me, but they had a passion and a drive. And I feel like everybody has that passion and drive, but fear and insecurity is what holds everybody back. Once you lose the insecurity and the fear, it's game on.
Yeah.
And so what I want to do with my film and the documentary on my life is I want people to be inspired by my attitude and how I approach life, rather than just look at my accolades and my achievements and goals and be like, man, I could never do that because he's just naturally gifted, naturally talented. I don't, I've said this on many podcasts, I don't believe in natural talent.
Yeah.
I believe that everybody has to work for everything that they do, just at different levels.
Yeah.
And I feel that some people learn things quicker and can achieve things quicker because of their mental state. Some people are more fearful than others. You can't say well, I was just born more scared than you. Really? Is that a scientific fact? I was just born more insecure than you were. No, we're pretty much all the same. I mean, obviously there's some, people that are not mentally there from birth, from a birth defect. But that's okay. Doesn't mean that they aren't as loving as you can be. There's some people that are so not talented, but more loving.
Yeah.
What's better? Who do you want in your camp? Do you want the person that's super talented, that's a jerk? Or do you want someone that's not so talented, that's loving and caring?
Yeah.
Who do you want to be around?
Yeah.
But if you could have talented and caring, that's a double bonus, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to be. I want to be that. I want to, and I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We're going to make mistakes all the time. And patience is a hard thing to learn. And my definition of patience is long suffering. If you're not willing to suffer, you're going to have a very lack of patience.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that coming to grips. I guess one of the things I wanted to ask you is I'm 36, right? So from 30 to 60, what?
You're just a baby.
Yeah. Don't feel like it.
You're a wee lad.
But I guess that's like one of the things that I've kind of learned over the last maybe 5 years. Like, I remember going through my 20s and thinking that every problem I solved was going to be the last problem that I had to solve. You know, so I was coming at everything as like, I just got to get this done and then life's going to be good.
Right.
And then that something else happens and another thing and another thing. And I think that it was like maybe last year or very recently, like ashamedly recently, where I'm like, this is like the game, right? This whole thing is just every day there's going to be a new set of problems.
Yeah.
And I just can't be pissed off that I've got another problem, because that's what this is. And even, you know, the fire and the warehouse and everything, it's like huge problem. But it's like, well, that's just another one of the problems that's going to be on this road. So I guess that's my answer to what I was going to ask you, which is like, what do you think that you learned between like 30 and 60?
I learned that there's a lot of things to learn. I started riding dirt bikes at 35.
Oh, amazing.
I first stepped on a dirt bike at age 35.
So cool.
I stopped riding gnarly handrails at age 35, just because I just was over it. I didn't want to get hurt, because in skating, it's all about how you can one-up yourself, and obviously one-up someone else, you know.
But it's mostly yourself, really.
Not in a competition. It's not.
Well, yeah. But I mean, even in competition, there's a point where like beating yourself could put you so far ahead of other people. Like Tony Hawk to beat himself, if Tony Hawk beat himself in a vert ramp, he was going to beat everybody else.
Right, but if I want to beat Tony Hawk, I have to one-up him.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's true.
as harsh as it says, this life's about one-upping people.
Yeah.
If you want to stand out, if you want to reap the rewards of whatever those rewards are, you got to go out of your way to push harder and think differently and think outside the box. But it doesn't have to be harmful. It can be in a way where you're inspiring people to do the same thing. And I've got to enjoy lots of things in life because I pushed myself to a place where I've stood out in a way where people look up to me, inspired, and want to bless me with things, bless me with a lifestyle, bless me with opportunities. And so, if anything, if you want to be wise, is just try to capture those opportunities when they're presented to you. You know, I think that's the best way to approach life, is don't let a great opportunity pass you by based on your attitude. If you have a real shitty attitude, bad attitude, you're not going to see these opportunities. If you have a pessimistic attitude, you're not going to see opportunities when they're presented in front of you. If you're optimistic, and remember the movie Yes Man, Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
That is a great movie.
Yeah.
And his whole life changed when he just said yes to things.
Yeah.
You know? And the reason why he did not say yes in the beginning was because he was basing his life off his feelings.
Yeah.
And I do not advise people to base any part of your life off your feelings, because your feelings aren't real. They can lie to you. They're not always true. They're there in the moment, but it's not always true. So like, I test that on myself all the time. There have been times where I've been like, I have plans to skate this session, and I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, and I'm so relaxed. I'm like, man, I really don't feel like going out to go do this. And if I would have just focused on that feeling of like, I really don't feel like it, then I would have never experienced this great session that I had. I got up and I'm like, you know what? I told my friends I'm going to show up. I'm going to go based on my feeling. I don't feel like going. I'm going to go anyways. And I had the best session ever. So what does that tell you about your feelings?
Yeah, fuck your feelings.
Don't trust them.
Yeah.
You know, your intuition's a little different.
Yeah.
You know, intuition has to do with wisdom.
Yeah.
They kind of go hand in hand. But if you don't feel like, okay, perfect example, as a parent, I do not feel like waking up at 6 a.m. every morning to wake my kids up to make sure that I make food for them in the morning to get them to school and drive them every day. Do I honestly feel like doing that? No, I'd rather just sleep in, put my dirt bike in the back truck, go to the track, and come home whenever I feel like it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But that's not who I am. As a parent, as a responsible parent, I have to do things sometimes I don't feel like doing. So when I'm with somebody that has that attitude, I just tell them, you need to change your attitude, bruh.
Yeah.
I don't care that, do what's right. Don't do what you feel.
Yeah.
Do what's right. What is right?
Honestly, couldn't agree with that more. Like, your feelings are lying to you.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's like, there's a million things that I don't feel like doing, but they're when you do the right thing as opposed to the thing that you feel like, that's the thing that progresses you forward in life. It actually took me a long time to learn that too.
But see, I can call myself a hypocrite right now because there's bills I need to pay and they're stacked up. You want to know why I haven't done them?
I just don't feel like it.
Because I don't feel like doing them right now. I'd rather go skate. I'd rather say yes to this podcast.
Yeah.
But I should be home doing my bills.
Yeah.
Because I think some of them are late.
Yeah.
So did I do the right thing? I don't know. Is it the right thing that I'm here right now? So it's whatever your priorities are. That's what you're going to put first.
Yeah.
What is your priority? So you have to wake up every day. I think it's really good to write down your priorities at night and go like, what am I going to prioritize?
Yeah.
Because there's so much stuff that we need to do in the day if you're a busy person, and you just have to put those in order. Yeah. And sometimes we put the most important things at the bottom, and then the less important things we do because of our feelings and we do what we feel like. Should I be drinking more water? Yes. Do I feel like doing it? No. Give me that Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's real.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And so, I'm a hypocrite. I say a lot of things, but do the opposite.
Yeah, but
we all are.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. But that's where I think the accountability thing comes back. If you hadn't have told your friends that you were going to meet them at the park, then you probably would have succumbed to your feelings. But because there was somebody like a third party holding you accountable, you actually were able to be like, it's that, for me at least, it's the accountability that gets me over the line. And I was with a friend of mine when I was back in Australia.
Yeah.
We've been friends since we were 7 years old, and we were talking about school and who we were at school.
Yeah.
And I used to be the kid, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And a lot of people didn't like it. They were thinking that I thought I was the shit, because I said I was going to do it. And I said to him, I'm like, I still do it now, but I think I've learned to communicate it in a different way, but I almost need to speak things into the universe. I'm going to do this. Somebody else needs to know about this other than me, because I don't trust myself to get it done. I need to tell you people what I'm about to do to force me to walk that walk.
Well, that's a skateboarder's mentality, especially when we're trying to trick.
Yeah,
And when you see people bailing all the time and falling and bailing, in our heads, you can't hear it, but we're speaking to ourselves like, I'm going to make it this time. I'm not falling. I'm going to do it. So you really have to speak that into your life. So what you think and what you speak do become realities based on how you can talk to yourself. So if you're always talking negative about yourself, you're going to feel negative and you're going to do a lot of negative things. But if you're positive, there is a line of letting people know what you're doing, but then not following through with it.
Yeah,
and
then
I
don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, and then you're going to be then people aren't going to trust you, or
you're the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, and so. I've always heard the better way to do is don't let people know what you're doing and just do it, But, like I said, it's competition. We're all competing against each other in in certain ways. And I compete against my friends all the time, even with skating. It's like, we're trying tricks together. Well, I'm going to line this before you.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, really? You are? Let's see it, So it's like that friendly banter,
Yeah.
And it gets us to do it. Like, you're not landing that before me. I'm going to do it before you. And then what? No way, So that helps push, to the goal that you're both trying to reach. And that goes on all the time.
Yeah.
But then you can tell some of the people, they're very arrogant and they do it in a selfish way,
Yeah.
That's hurtful. But we try to do it more in a playful way, especially on dirt bike riding. I mean, I bench race with my friends all the time. It's like, you're not passing me, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm jumping that jump before you,
Oh, dude, I love it.
Yeah.
So how did the deal with Cowie come about? Because you've been with them for a while, eh?
Yeah, since around 2019.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I broke my femur right after I got on Cowie.
Oh, welcome to the team.
How that came about was I was at Moto Beach Classic for a Rolling Sands event.
Yeah.
And I was just walking through the pits, and a guy named Josh Harper was working one of the booths. It was a Cowie booth. And he's like, calls me over. It's like, hey, Cab, what's going on? I'm like, hey, how's it going? Didn't know who he was. He's like, how do we get you off those Indian motorcycles? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, how can we get you on our brand? I go, well, free motorcycle is a free motorcycle. That's one way to start.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what do we have that you might want to ride? And I was riding a KTM 350 at the time.
Oh, lovely.
And, I love that bike. That bike really helped me make the transition from 250 to 450.
Yeah.
There was that in between.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I was like, I loving my 350, but then I was still getting roosted so hard by 450s. And I could never, I just felt like, if I just got a 450, I could do the same thing back to those dudes I'm trying to pass, because it hurts. 450
Yeah.
roost hurts.
Yes, it does.
When I'm like getting serious about riding, you'll see the chest protector go on.
Yeah.
But if I'm just kind of cruising, I just kind of leave it off. But if I want to get behind someone and pass someone, you have to be in that roost for a long time. You have to go through that pain to get past that person. I'm sure all the dudes, the pro guys are.
Oh,
all
I
the
honestly
time.
can't. Like, I raced at Glen Helen a couple months ago for the
Yeah.
Blue Crew Invitational.
Yeah.
Bro, I was like, I didn't know it was a race. I thought it was just a ride day.
Yeah.
So I rocked up late, hadn't been riding. I was tired. And then I get there, do like 2 laps practice, and then okay, all right, your race is up in 15 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
I had it's like zero preparation. So I'm like, right, I'm just going to go last off the start and I'm just going to like cruise around. And the fucking roost that was coming off even these slow old guys at the back going up those hills. So then I'm like, I need to go past these guys. And then every single person that I passed, the roost just got worse and worse and worse. I had like new boots, new bike. Dude, my bike was trash. My boots, all the paint come off the buckles. I'm like, how did the dudes at the top level do this for 30 minutes? Just get pumped.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the roost that's coming off Tomac's bike is a lot gnarlier than a 35 plus guy at Glen Helen.
Long suffering, bro.
Oh, dude.
That takes a lot of patience. So yeah. So then I looked at what they had, the bikes on display, and there was a real nice 2019 Cowie 450. And I'm like, that bike would be awesome to ride. He's let me talk to the higher ups and see what we can do. And so there was some banter going on back and forth, and then A1 came up, and he calls me up and says, "Hey Cab, I want to invite you to the Cowie booth, and there's someone I want you to meet, and he's my boss, and he's going to be the one determining whether you're going to have a bike or not." Because he was trying to push outside the box of what how Cowie thinks to get outside influencers to help promote the brand. And he knew that I was an enthusiast, and I guess he was a huge fan back in the day as well. So then I go in the booth, and I meet this guy, Rick Perrin, and I go to shake his hand, and I go, "Hi, I'm Steve Caballero." And he's all, "Oh, yeah, I've met you before." And I'm like, "Oh, really? When?" He's all, "You came to an event in 2005 at in Sacramento. Was that track there?
Hangtown.
Hangtown. And we were having an event for a woman who had cancer, and we were having a raffle, and you brought all these raffle prizes, and you donated so many things, and then you had these boards and all this stuff. And I just want to tell you, I appreciated the fact that you came out to the event, supported it, and offered this stuff to raffle to help raise funds for her. And by the way, I just want to let you know that she's cancer free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then he goes, I just want to let you know I remember that. Right. And then so I look over to Josh, I'm like, I think I'm getting a bike. So is this something that...
Hey, you said you don't believe in karma.
Well, it was a reaping what you sow.
Yeah.
You know, and so something that I had did, you know, what was it, 14 years ago, had an effect of what was going to happen to me that day. And sure enough, I got the bike, you know, and it was because I think that helped, that something I did 14 years ago that he remembered out of, you know, just supporting an event and being out there. It meant a lot to him. So it was a no-brainer for him. He's like, yeah, you're getting a bike.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And obviously been with him ever since.
Yeah. And then here's another funny thing that happened right after that. So then I get the bike, and I'm so excited. I go to Cowie, and they have it right there in the showroom, right ready for me. I load it up. I make a post like, yeah, I'm an ambassador for Cowie now, right? And I show all this stuff. And then the next A2 comes up. He's like, Cab, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, what? He's like, you need to take that post down.
Oh.
And I'm like, why? He's all, you can't say ambassador. They really hold that as a high value. And Jeremy McGrath is our only ambassador for Cowie. And we're getting all these emails and phone calls like, did you fire Jeremy McGrath and like now Cab's your new ambassador? I'm like, I didn't know I did something wrong.
Yeah.
Because prior to that in 2005, so in 2005, I quit riding dirt bikes. Yeah, because in 2000 I rode, got an ambassador sponsorship from Honda along with Sonny Garcia, Darren Ralphs, and Sean Palmer. We were their ambassadors, and I was quote unquote an ambassador. And that's when we did all those crossover races and stuff. And for 3 years, I was getting all these bikes from every year. I'd get a new bike from Honda to the point where I made that transition from 2-stroke to 4-stroke.
Yeah,
I got one of the first 4-stroke.
Oh,
you know?
wow!
And so, and then after 3 years, they wanted to end it. And I said, okay. And then, so I was getting married at that time, and the bike was getting taken back. And instead of getting a new bike, I just stopped riding. And something was telling me in my heart, like, you know what? I think you need to take a break. Stop riding. A guy had just passed away. Ernie Fonseca had just got paralyzed. There was so many things. I was getting married, starting a family. And so I think, you know, God was just saying, you know, you need to chill out on motocross right now. So I chilled out for 7 years. And so in 2011 is when I ended up getting another dirt bike. I got talked into it from my friend Solomon Magaw, talked me into getting another dirt bike 7 years later.
Yeah.
So A2 comes up and he's like, dude, you need to take that post down. You can't say ambassador. I didn't know I was doing something.
Yeah, pretty innocent mistake. Yeah.
And so I took it down. He's like, I can't even believe I'm telling you this. I'm so embarrassed. But, you know, they have their ambassador. It's Jeremy McGrath. I'm like, fine. At least I'm the hype. At least people are noticing that I'm a part of the company.
Yeah.
And so there's an impact there, which was a good thing. And he's like, yeah, you got to take it down. I'm like, you know what? I'll be whatever you want me to be.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, and you can't even say that we gave you the spike. And I'm like, what? Okay. Like, I don't understand that. But he's like, it's not me. It's the higher ups. I'm like, okay, cool. You know? And so, you know, that passes through. And then seriously, a month later, he's like, hey, Cab, do you want to be in a Cowie commercial? And I'm like, what? He's like, they want you to be in a Cowie commercial because they're influencers, want to be a part of this let the good times roll deal.
Yeah.
And I said, no problem. He's like, and for your payment, we will give you that bike. We're going to give you the title of that 2019 bike if you do this for us. And I'm like, so that's not just a loaner.
Yeah,
I got a
yeah.
free bike out of doing this commercial. So I did the commercial and everything. And here we are at Supercross on the big main thing. Let the good times roll. And I had to say, let the good times roll. I'm alling over the bike out of, at the Etney Skate Park out of a
sick.
bowl. And it was such a cool thing to be a part of that. And I felt like I was part of the Cowie family to be included in that. And then from then on, I've just been family.
And it's just been, it's
been great.
such a
They've
good
been
fit.
so supportive of me, and I'm trying to do the same thing. And getting a loaner bike is good enough for me.
Yeah.
But for them to give me bikes, they've given me 110, they've given me a trail bike, they've given me a lot, and they've supported me in so many ways that there have been opportunities where other people have wanted me to ride their brands and everything, and like even at the LA Coliseum when they did that race there, and we did that promo thing, and everyone was on a Yamaha for that press day thing, and I'm like, I can't ride a Yamaha, bro. Like, I don't care. Like, and I told Dave Praters, like, can I bring my Cowie? And he's like, yeah, I want you to be a part of this, so you can bring your Cowie. And so I was the only one on a Cowie, and they were all on Yamahas because Yamaha sponsored that press day.
Yeah.
So it's cool that they still let me do it. So I want to thank Yamaha for let me still be a part of that whole thing as well. But to let me rock green, when everyone was rocking
It's
blue.
so cool. So what do you think about the new 450? Obviously new
Oh, it's
model.
amazing.
Yeah.
I'm riding it.
You really love that thing.
I'm riding it. I just hopped right on it, and it's a great bike. We haven't really done too much to it. I took it to precision suspension, and they hooked up the suspension to me, and that's about it. Everything else, I love the bike, and I'm still a beginner. I'm still learning, and I
You
still
ride
want to
good,
progress.
though. You ride
I'm
good.
trying, and but it's all, the amount of time you put into it. And then now, I do a lot of mountain biking, as well in between. So
E-bike?
I ride an e-bike. Yep.
That's the only way.
It's the only way. It's brought in such a broader outlook on riding and want to make me ride even more.
Yeah.
I still get tired. I still get a workout. I still
dude, for
ride.
sure.
I still climb the mountain 5 times more than a person on an acoustic bike would do. And I'm just learning how to go down the hill fast.
Yeah.
Trying to learn how to go down things, the technical stuff, the rocky stuff, and trying to learn how to jump in the air, because jumping on a mountain bike is way different than a dirt bike.
Yeah.
I mean, on a dirt bike, it's more forgiving, and you can actually get yourself out of a situation. Seems like on a mountain bike, you can't get out of a situation. If you're going over the bars, you're going over the bars.
Ramp is what happens. Like there's once you leave that the takeoff, it's over.
Yeah. And so like it's kind of all coming full circle now, because now I got a dirt jumper, which is hardtail in the back, and a little bit of suspension in the front, and it's almost a little bit bigger than a BMX bike.
Have you ridden those new jumps down your way?
Oh yeah, I've been
Dude,
going
they
there.
look epic.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
and
I'm gonna get a dirt jump bike.
you
for
should
that.
go there.
Yeah,
It's so cool, and so it's right by my house.
Oh, it's close to you?
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes. And so I've been trying to put the effort into learning how to dirt jump and jump those jumps, because the jumps on mountain bike are normally not whippy like that, and they don't send you straight up in the air and down. Most mountain bike jumps are like gaps, doubles or tables, but they're kind of like
along the
slanted.
lows. Yeah.
It's more speed. It's not a up and down. And I feel like BMX is more like you up, do something stylish in the air and then come back down, and landing in the tranny. There's no suspension, and so you have to really land perfect. And so it's a whole new animal that I'm trying to attack. And I've always wanted to do a backflip on a bike. And so that's my goal this year, is to backflip my dirt jumper.
That's sick.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to Woodward or something.
Yeah, Woodward West. I already went there once with my e-bike, which I tried. Coco Zarita was helping me, but I felt like the bike was a wrong bike. The suspension, soaking it up
Too
on
soft,
the jump,
yeah.
the weight of it, I think it's heavy.
Yeah.
It doesn't come around.
What
as quick.
type of e-bike do you ride?
I ride for YT Industries.
Yeah, sick. Okay.
Yeah, so they've been a huge support.
Do you, when you ride mountain bikes, do you ride the San Clemente? Like, is that your local spot?
Don't really have a local spot, but I've been there. I've been to Greer.
Yeah. I've heard that's awesome.
It's amazing. The trails that people have built out there are incredible. Just went to Vail last weekend.
Yeah.
Snow Valley is a fun place.
Yeah.
Sky Park is amazing. And just local, actually hidden stuff around my neighborhood as well.
Yeah.
Is pretty fun. So, yeah, it's amazing. I try to treat mountain biking just like skating. You know, you got to fail to succeed. You know, and you got to put the work in. And it's just nice to feel comfortable on your bike.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great feeling to not be afraid.
Yeah.
You know, to overcome your fear. And I feel like life is all about challenges. And if you want to get the fulfillment of life, is just learn to overcome your fears. And that's the greatest thing in life, is to overcome your fears.
Do you have a specific way that you do that?
Yeah, you just gotta just do it.
Yeah, that's kind of the answer I didn't want to hear.
You just gotta go for it.
I wanted some kind of secret, some kind of.
There's no secret. It's called courage.
Don't think,
it's
just
called
go.
courage.
Yeah.
You just have to be courageous. You have to be willing. You have to take a sacrifice. You have to be willing to sacrifice. You know what can go wrong. You know. To me, I like to look at it as calculated risks. You know, I'm taking a risk every day, but most of them are calculated. You know, and that's how you get out of it safer. If you're going for stuff that you're not really sure of and you don't have the ability, then yeah, you're going to get hurt really easy, really quickly. But I rather take longer. I know I'm going to get hurt. It's not there's a term in dirt bike riding. It's like, it's not if, it's when you're going to crash. And I think that's with everything in life. It's like, it's not if you're going to wreck or fall or crash, it's when. And so, you know, I heard someone said, you know, just even as young children, we learn this thing of striving for more. I mean, just think of a baby learning to walk, right? The first time it fell and got hurt and fell down. Do you think it gave up? No way. It was determined to like look and see around. That person's walking. I want to be just like that person. So the baby just keeps going and going until it learns to walk. And so, yeah, it could be what you see, the influence. You know, if babies never saw people walking, they probably wouldn't try to stand on their feet. You know, if we were like crawling the whole time around, but then maybe someone would be like, hey, wait, maybe I can stand up. Whoa, I just invented walking. We were crawling this whole time, you know? So, and that's, you know, that's the beauty of being a human being, is the creativity that we've been given. You know, I believe that we come from a creator who created all this, and we're made in his image. So we have the ability to create. And it's just looking at years, look what we've created. You know, we've created great things, but we've also created evil and monster and dangerous, crazy things, you know. You know, I mean, just think about scientists inventing the atomic bomb, like how stoked they were. Like, we're going to invent the most gnarliest thing, but then, is that a good thing? You know, it put in the wrong hands, it could be devastating. Yeah. But it was exciting, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to blow this thing up.
Yeah, I wonder how many wars were prevented because of nuclear weapons, though.
Yeah.
Like, it just becomes like the world's most gnarly Mexican standoff.
Oh, yeah.
To where it's just like, okay, now no one can do anything.
Well, look, I mean, same with wars. It's a competition.
Yeah.
Life's a competition, man.
Yeah, no, it is. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that new Cowie. How much better was it than the old one? Like, could you tell a big difference at your level?
I don't think so. I'm not that great of a rider, but
that's cool to say though. Like to actually say, like, I couldn't tell that much of a difference.
I wish I was that good.
A lot of people will just say stuff's different because they know it is. You know.
Yeah. I wish I was that good to be able to say like, oh yeah, it's way better. You know, but I'm not. That'd be like someone picking up a skateboard for the first time. Like, what do you think of a skateboard? How good is it compared to your other one?
That's true. But you Well, I guess
it works for me.
Yeah.
It's great for me, weekend rider. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And for at my level and what I want to do, it's amazing. Now, if I got on the 250, I probably would not like it. I don't care how new it is.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't like the way it feels. I wouldn't like the fact that I could look at a jump and be like, you know what, on my 450, all I got to just go like that, and I'm over this jump. And I have to work harder on a less CC, powerful motorcycle.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. The beauty of a 450 is the power all the way through from the beginning to the end versus like, people always say like, oh, two strokes are so much better and so much more fun. Yeah, they sound rad. And yeah, it's rad if you can ride them the way that you're supposed to ride them. But if you're not at that level, I don't think it's that easy or fun. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm pretty glad they invented 4-strokes, to be honest.
Totally.
Like, I love a 2-stroke, and they smell great, and they sound great. But yeah, look, nothing beats how easy it is to ride.
What was Roxon on the 250s? Was he on a 4-stroke? Right?
4-stroke.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even that, I mean, look at the challenges that he went through riding a slower bike.
Yeah. Yeah, that thing would be so slow compared to like the PC bike or a Star bike.
Yeah.
Are you watching all the races every weekend?
I try to. I have a busy schedule, and sometimes I'll catch it, or I'll have to catch it on Peacock, the next day. It's so funny. After Deegan won the championship, I thought the race was over. I didn't know that there was a race last weekend, and they're like, "Did you watch the race?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's over. He won the championship." Like, no, there's one more race. Yeah. I'm like, sweet. Now I got something to watch tonight.
Oh, that's awesome. So, who are your favorites?
Now?
Yeah.
Who are my favorites now? In the 450s, I like Sexton. I like Sexton a lot. Plessinger, I like him because I really like his attitude. I've met him before, and I just
coolest guy in the world.
He's so down to earth, I've always strived for Mookie to do well, I just don't, I don't understand why some guys just don't get to that next.
Well, I think you said it before. It's like mental,
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, the 250s. Shimoda is one of my favorites. I like his personality.
Hard not to love him.
Yeah. I don't know. It's really hard for me to pick favorites now. Like I said, back in the day, James Stewart was my favorite, and I always wanted him to win. But I don't know. It's difficult, especially when you're doing those things where you bet on them.
Oh, you doing that?
I was, but then I feel like I can't pick the right ones,
yeah.
And I feel like sometimes if I pick certain ones, I'm jinxing them or something.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough.
So, do you think that Sexton wins the title if Jet didn't get hurt?
No, I don't. I think Jet would have won just because he's got the goods right now. He's got the positive mental attitude to be a winner. He's got the skill. He's where he needs to be, and Hunter was surprising to see him move up in confidence.
Amazing,
Yeah, I was surprised with him and where he was. So the real battle I feel like is going to be with Jet and Hunter, where he's at now. But it was unheard of for a rookie to come in and just dominate. So to see where Jet is and what he's done in the last few years is pretty amazing. And I didn't believe it at first either. But when you start seeing the results, you're like, yep, he's the dude.
Yeah.
There's the results don't lie. They don't lie.
So many people were trying to downplay Jet at the start. And I'm obviously super biased. I've known him since he was a kid, going to all the same races. And it's like we all knew, I tell people all the time, like if you ever saw him ride a 65, you just knew that he was going to be who he is.
Yeah.
But in America, people were just fighting for so long. They were just like grasping, like, he's not that good. And I'm like, yes, he is.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's like, finally. But then he goes and gets hurt. And then everyone's like, well, Chase would have started beating him. Look how much better Chase was riding. But
I don't think so. No. And, and every one of those guys have a chance to get hurt every weekend. It's just someone's bad line choice,
yeah.
Either someone else, a lapper, your bad line choice, someone you're battling for a positions line choice. It can all end in a second. Mm-hmm. Something can go wrong. The bike can malfunction. You never know what's going to happen. So I never count anyone out like that or so it's gnarly, especially like on the start. Yeah. Oh man, the starts, I've been in a first turn start pile up, and it's gnarly. And I learned a huge lesson. I was at Mammoth. I was racing Mammoth.
Oh, you did race Mammoth?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And on my 450, and I learned a huge lesson because
that's a sketchy first.
Yeah, there's 40 guys, not 20, too. 40 guys on the line trying to get to up the hill and then to a turn. And the lesson that I learned was when you're off the line and someone's leaning into you, you don't go, oh, you're leaning into me? I'm going to go over here and lean that way because there's guys coming this way and they just smashed me. And so what I've learned, if I'm ever going to be on the line, if someone's leaning to me, I'm going to lean right
just
into
lean
them.
Back.
and hold my line straight.
Yeah.
And I got wrecked super hard. My bike got thrashed.
Oh.
Yeah. It was.
That's a crazy bad first turn there. Or very consequential.
It was bad. Yeah. And so I've never thought that I would be in one of those, first turn pilots, but I experienced that part of motocross.
The thing you can't take away from Chase, though, is just how, his ability to finish championships.
Well, the thing that was disappointing in Chase was the fact that he would just fall on the most crazy things and be like, dude, why?
Yeah.
Why are you falling here? You rode this race so good here, and then you just tip over right here. It's like, you wonder, what went through your mind right there? Did you forget? So it's a bummer when someone works so hard to, when Plessinger was going to win that one race.
Oh, Detroit.
His foot gets... It's like, oh man, what a huge disappointment.
Were you at San Diego Supercross this year?
Yeah.
How good was that?
It was amazing
to see him win.
Oh, it was amazing.
I haven't felt that for a rider in such a long time.
Yeah. You're kind of always rooting for the underdog. It's exciting. And even when James Stewart was on top and dominating, it was exciting when he crashed on the first turn.
Yeah.
Because to see him pick off everybody to win, that is more exciting than Jet getting the whole shot and then leading. Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, we can leave now because he won the race. But it'd be more exciting if Jet gets a bad start and just starts picking people off and be like, this is how good I am. The one thing that I'll never forget is the fact that James Stewart slowed down so Chad Reed could pass him.
No,
that is like, whoa.
Yeah, that was so gnarly.
Yeah, but he's just playing.
What's the best live race you've ever been to, you think?
Oh, God. Best live race. I don't know. I don't really know if I have a favorite. Yeah. But I love Supercross more than outdoors just because it's contained. And just the environment.
Yeah, the atmosphere is crazy,
there, and it's outdoors. It's a little work, It's hot, and you can only see one part of the track, and you can see them from a distance if you can see the whole track, and then they come by again. But Supercross is rad because you're in a seat, and it's it's contained, and just the vibe there, and especially A1 is probably my most favorite race because everyone's being prepared before that, and the excitement of new guys coming in from the 250 to 450s, and guys that were hurt are coming back, and the new guys coming in. A1's always always a very fun race for me to go to.
Do you have a favorite A1?
No.
Man, were you there the year that James crashed in the whoops?
I probably was,
On
but
the
I didn't.
Suzuki?
I was probably there.
I mean, Roxon won that night.
Yeah.
That was a crazy ad. Man, A1 is the best day. I was there, I can't remember whether this was A1 or A2, but the year that Millsaps and Kennard had that crazy battle as well. Like, I remember like Anderson and Seeley having crazy battles in the 250 class.
Yeah.
Like you're right. That is such a cool vibe, that race.
There was a point in when I was watching a lot of races that it was all about the 450s, and the 250s was kind of boring.
Yeah.
You know? But I feel like now it's like it's even. I feel like you got the stars in the 250s and the 450s, and I'm just excited to watch these guys than just the 450s. Do you remember that era?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree.
So I feel like right now, Supercross is at its finest right now, is with the talent, the speed, just everyone who's in it right now. And there's always that discussion of like who's faster, the Europeans or or the circuit here, and that was interesting to see Villapoto go over there and not struggle, and like, hey, these guys are fast out here, and so it would be cool to see mix match more. Yeah. Like those guys come over and test their skills, test our skills against their skills, and vice versa. I guess that's what the Nations is all about. But it would be cool that people kind of get out of their comfort zone and circuit and go into a new realm and see, hey, how can I measure up to these guys and who is really the fastest man on a dirt bike? Well, but that changes all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think your team is getting Prado for the next few years. So we're definitely going to see, man, Prado on a Cowie outdoors next year. I'm pretty excited to see that because he's a freak.
Yeah. And, and the one thing about the motocross industry, too, that I wouldn't say it's disappointing, but the loyalty behind the companies and the riders, I mean, they just leave their companies so fast, and then the companies give up the riders so fast.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a weird one to me. I don't really get it.
Especially skating, right? Like you've had the same sponsors forever. It'd be like, imagine you like not being Vans and just going like Vans to something else every 2 years.
Well, it could have been like that. There's been times where I wanted to leave Vans because I was unhappy, and there was times where I wanted to leave Pal Peralta because I was unhappy. But it's a relationship. And sometimes
there's good and there's bad.
Yeah, and it's not always going to be in your favor.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be arguments and disagreements, and and that's the thing with relationships in itself. It's like you can get through it, and if the relationship's suffering at the time, it's not the end of the world. And sometimes you have to humble yourself and let things go, and sometimes they're for the better. And it's really, having integrity has really taught me a lot about, just like I said, the feelings thing. Don't just make a decision on how you feel right then. Because if I did that, I would have been gone from Vans a long time ago. I would have been gone from Powell a long time ago if I would have based my decision on how I was feeling that day.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I did what was right. And so now I can look back at my career. I can look back at my relationship with these two companies and say that I'm the longest, dedicated rider to one company on shoes, with shoes and decks, and for me, because that's the type of person I am, I'll be dedicated to Cowie for as long as I can until they give up on me. I won't give up on them. I wouldn't go like, because I've had people in Yamaha go like, hey, we want to send you a bike. And I'm like, cool, but I ride for Cowie.
Yeah.
That's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
I'm loyal.
Yeah. Do you wish that the 250 class would be mixed, or do you like the East-West?
I don't even know why they do that. to be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Maybe just get more riders involved. Maybe that's it. But if you think about it, they really don't need that.
I don't think so.
They don't need it, because if you think about it too, all the guys that are way like 10th to 20, do you even care about those dudes?
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
What?
Thank you.
No, I'm just saying. Do you care about those
Did
dudes?
you hear my rant
I
about
haven't.
privateers
No.
a while ago? Oh, I just went on like a bit of a rant being like, I'm just so sick of the argument of like why we can't do all of these things that will like actually progress the sport. Comes down to the guys that no one even knows who they are. And they're like the backbone of the sport. And I'm like, they're not though. Like they're actually not.
Just because
so you've just,
oh, sorry.
The thing that you said then, I'm just like, thank you. Because you don't even know about any of this.
No, I don't. And just because you're a racer doesn't mean that you need a special privilege.
I agree.
If you're not that good, you're not that good.
Yes.
I mean, the worst person in the Supercross is the fastest dude at your local track. I understand that.
Yeah, better than me and you.
Yeah. But who cares?
I agree.
These people aren't paying to watch these guys race.
Yeah.
They're not paying to watch them get lapped. They're not paying to watch them get in the way.
Yeah.
You know, I always feel like, I don't know, I thought this would be cool. It's like, once you get lapped, you have to get off the track. Just open it up for the faster guys so you're not slowing them down.
Yeah.
You know, you're not an obstacle.
I mean, I've thought of that as well. So I guess the argument is like, oh, you'd only have 5 guys on the track. Good.
You're going to have more than 5 guys.
But like, so imagine like
you mean if they passed everybody?
Yeah.
Oh.
So if they're lapping, like, because sometimes they lap up to 7th. Hey, for the last 5 laps of a Supercross race, I'm not mad at 7 dudes being on the track able to absolutely send it. Like, I don't know that I'm mad at that.
Well, if you're watching on TV, what do they show?
Yeah, the top
They're only
dudes.
showing the top dudes anyway. So what does it matter if you're not there?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like the 250 class could go. They have the stamina to go the whole way.
Yeah.
You know, they should be allowed to ride both east and west.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're good enough to be in that circuit, then yeah, you're good enough. But if you don't reach that circuit, then yeah, you don't need to be. I mean, yeah, it's everyone's dream to be the top guy, but there's a point in the life that you're not going to be the top guy, and you just have to come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I wish I could skate as well as I did in the 80s, but I don't right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have to come to that conclusion that I'm old. I'm an old man.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to fight that and live the dream. And so, what's the word? I just heard of that word, trans age. I'm trans age.
You identify as
I identify as a
35-year-old.
20-year-old dude in my mind, but I'm 60.
It's weird.
Is that weird?
No.
Is that a weird thing that
No.
I feel like I'm a 20-year-old dude in a 60-year-old body?
No, I was going to say it's weird how you can age and you never like the internal clock never matches what's going on the outside. Like I'm still just a 20-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably the way that everyone feels. And I love guys like you, especially as I've gotten older in my lane. But it's like, I look at guys like you and I'm like, holy shit, skating at 60, still got a skate park in his backyard. It's just like, that's me. I'm that guy, still riding, still skate. I want to be you. And I love seeing guys like you that are still looking after yourself and you're still out there riding. And it's like, you're just still living the dream. And it's like, damn, I got minimum 25 years and still left to go.
Well, yeah. I mean, we put our limits on ourselves, you know, and other people do that as well. And what I am trying to do is try to show people that you have more life in you than you think you really do. Yeah. And I think that will maybe be the testament of my career and my documentary that's being made is the fact that I still have a little kid attitude. And why do you have to grow up? You know, obviously I'm still immature, but I'm responsible.
Yeah.
I'm a lot wiser, but I'm still immature. I've gotten a lot of crap for dating 30-year-old girls. And it's like, what? I identify as a 30-year-old. Why is that? Why is that
30,
weird?
I feel like 30 is a very safe age. Like if you're 60 dating a 30-year-old, I feel like that's pretty safe. At 30, you're also an adult, and adults can do what they want.
But I don't act. Do I act like a 60-year-old?
No.
So why should I date 6-year-olds?
Yeah. Why should? Hey,
it's boring.
Why should you not? Why should you not date a 30-year-old?
Right. Because I'm trans age. I identify as a 30-year-old.
I love that.
Is that wrong?
No, I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal when I'm 60. I'm going to do the same thing.
No, but even some 30-year-old girls I've dated, they're pretty immature. Yeah. But I was probably immature at 30 as well.
Yeah.
But it's all relative to your mindset and how it's the experiences that you have, and what you've experienced is how you manage your life. Yeah. And a lot of people have gone through a lot of stuff and have overcome, and I just want to show people that we're resilient and we can overcome so much adversity that we put in front of us. And humans are amazing. They're amazing creatures.
What's some of the hardest things you've had to overcome in your career, do you think?
What is the hardest things? The ability to, I would say, deal with, let me think. That's a hard one. Focusing on an idea and following through with it, not getting distracted.
Yeah.
I think the not getting distracted has been difficult for me, and to keep the focus, straight ahead to accomplish a goal. And because in our life, there's so many distractions, that get in the way, and that can be a deterrent on following your dreams or things that are important to you. So I find if I want to give anybody advice as a young person, is to less distractions in your life will help you reach your goals that you set for yourself.
Yeah. And how do you think people should go about that?
Carefully.
Yeah.
Look at other people's lives, analyze their lives and see what got them to that place, and try to follow things that are positive and that are helpful. There's a lot of things out there that they're positive and helpful, but they're really not. And everyone's different. It's not all going to work the same. But, overcoming your shyness and becoming more fearless has helped me gain a lot of momentum in my life. I feel like when you're insecure, you're shy, and you have a lot of fear, that you're going to lack. You're going to lack success, for one, and you're going to lack the opportunities that are presented to you. And that's what I mean about capturing these opportunities that are presented and not let them pass you by.
Yeah.
And so I say yes to a lot of things, even though, should I? Maybe not, but I do, because I know that one opportunity is going to lead to the next. So I like to give my time to people, because even though my time's precious to me, it's valuable to somebody else. And I think that's important.
Yeah. It is very wise to avoid distractions. And I think as well, probably the thing that I've learned over the last couple of years is that everything's a process. Like the more ambitious your goal is, the longer that's probably going to take by definition, almost, and there's just there's just a level at which you need to like put the thing out into the future, draw out the process, and then just stay on the path for as long as it's going to take. And you just have to know that path is probably going to dip, and it's probably going to be pretty shit along the way, you know, like it's not like just this linear progression. Everything gradually gets better until you get to the thing. And it's like just staying in it, whatever it is, I think is like the hardest thing to do. And I think that over the last few years, I've kind of learned that once you commit to a process and you fully see it through, the more times that you do that, it's almost like the better that you get at it. You know, it becomes like a skill that you can practice. But along the way, there's just so many distractions, so many opportunities to deviate, so many opportunities to maybe quit for something a little bit easier, a little bit more attainable, that's like a little bit closer. But it's like, man, you just, if you can like see the path that you've got to walk to get to the place that you want to be, like just fully commit and commit to like the time period. Like this is going to take 2 years. All right, well, don't stop for 2 years minimum.
You're right. No, it's a good mindset. And also focus on your weaknesses. That's really important if you want to progress to the next level. Don't just party in all your strengths and focus on your strengths, but focus on where you're weak, because then that's where you can become strong. And practice makes perfection. And once you perfect something, it becomes a part of you and you don't even have to think about what you're doing, you know, and which makes it look and feel easier to you and more comfortable when it becomes, you're so in tune of and so used to this movement, or the way that this feeling becomes a part of who you are. And it wasn't a part of you before, it was very foreign.
Yeah.
But once you become familiar with the repetitiveness of practice, you're not even thinking about the whoops anymore. You're like, I'm already through the whoops. I know what to do there. Let's focus on turns now.
Yeah.
So any guys that are getting, like in motocross, any guys getting terrible starts, you need to practice starts. That's all you need to practice.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're lacking your ability. And I don't know if guys do that or not. I'm not a coach or anything there, so I don't know what these guys practice on or whatnot. They're all different. But I know the guys that are terrible at starting, that's the first thing that they need to focus on, because that's what wins and loses the race sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Is the start. So if anything, if you want to be a fast racer, be a fast starter, and then obviously, you can work on other skills. Like Michael Lessie was really good at starts because he practiced those and he figured it out.
Yeah.
And then he would get the start, but then he didn't have the skill everywhere else, so then he would just fall back.
Yeah.
But I'd rather be the guy, up there falling back rather than the guy that never even could even get up there.
Yeah.
And then you're struggling even harder.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah. So you're, as an artist, say you bought me a beautiful print today, which I appreciate. What's the most meaningful thing someone's given to you? Like because you give so much to other people.
Yeah.
What's the most meaningful thing someone's ever given to you? Maybe art or?
There's their time, their time. Someone who you look up to, probably, is they're wanting to know who you are. Yeah, I would say their time. Yeah, because like I said, time is precious and, it's valuable to people, and we pick and choose who we want to spend time with. So someone's time is very important to me.
That's a great answer.
Thanks.
How's your perspective changed on time as you've got older?
I wish my kids spent more time with me, but they're teenagers, so they're in their own little world now. But the times that I spent with them as kids growing up and bringing them to the skate park and teaching them how to skate and bringing them to the BMX track and coaching them and teaching them how to ride dirt bikes and art and music, and all the times I spent with them, those were precious times. And when photos come up and videos come up, I always share them with them, and it just brings back special, fun times of my relationship with them. But when all that ends, it's sad.
Yeah, I bet. When did music really come into your life?
Music came into my life Well, rock and roll came into my life when I discovered skateboarding.
Yeah, they're very synonymous.
Yeah, because I really was into like R&B, disco, and soul. Where I grew up with, that was the music, and like the Beatles as well, and Elton John, and Jim Croce, and so I didn't know what rock and roll was. I knew that the stoners at our school listened to rock.
Yeah, yeah.
A little small group.
Yeah.
They were the minorities. But then when I went to the skate park, and because I was so influenced by skating, I wanted to be a skateboarder. They all listened to rock and roll. So when I left the skate park, I had my mom drive me to Tower Records and buy my first AC/DC, Cheap Trick, and Aerosmith tape.
3 good tapes.
And I would have never, ever listened to those bands, ever, if I wasn't a skateboarder and got into skating. And quickly, that turned into New Wave.
Yep.
It turned into Devo, B-52s, Gary Newman. And then quickly, right after that, it went straight into punk rock.
Yeah.
And then punk rock bands were coming up. And, and I really was attracted to that because it was raw. It was new. It was aggressive. It felt like skating.
I was going to say, it probably just like fit the vibe of skating.
It fit the vibe
like
of it.
Like the counterculture almost.
For sure. Like something that was going against the mainstream, small, not that many people knew about it. It just had a raw drive to it. And so in turn, I got into punk rock, and then in turn, I was like, man, I could start my own band and start playing music. So I picked up a bass when I was 17 and learned how to play. And then from there, I started a band in 1982 called The Faction, and with my mates from the skate park, and we started our own band, made our own records. I had my dad he's a printer, print me my stickers. I printed my own T-shirts at home. It was like full DIY, attitude and just making things happen. Like, we're in a band, we're touring, and we're making records, but on our own, And so that started my whole love for music and learning to progress at instruments. And then quickly, I learned how to play guitar. And then, so I've been in bands since 1982.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And how often do you play guitar nowadays? Like, it's a lot, right?
I play my acoustic guitar every once in a while. I'll step on the piano a little bit to try to write a tune, but we have band practice every Wednesday night.
Sick.
We try practice twice a week. I've been going on tours. We're trying to write a new album right now. And so, before I was ever even in a band, there was a lot of nights alone in my room listening to music and learning how to play. I didn't really take lessons, so I'm a self-taught musician. I mean, I didn't even know how to tune a guitar, and I learned how to do that myself. And so a lot of things were learned by just listening to tones and melodies. And that's why I've always been a huge fan of melodies and tones, because I didn't learn how to read music. I learned how to play by my ear. And so one of the here we go. Then you just remind me of something. One of the greatest compliments and things and people that I've met was George Harrison of the Beatles.
Really?
Yeah. We had a Bones Brigade tour in 1989 to London, and we get a call from George's wife, Olivia, and she says, "Hey, my son's 10 years old. His name's Danny. He wants to meet you guys. We hear that you're in London. Can we send a driver out to have you come to our home, our estate?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." We didn't think he was going to be there. And we take this drive out to the countryside, about a half an hour in, and we pull up to the gate, and there's this huge house. And I'm like, "Wow, that's a nice house." And the guy's all, "Oh, that's just the gatekeeper's house." And I'm like, "What? That's a big house for a guy just manning a gate." So the gate opens, we drive in, we see a pond, we see another pond on top of here with a waterfall, we see another pond on top of that with a waterfall, and then all of a sudden we come up to this huge castle. And I think it was an old nunnery where nuns used to live, because there was a lot of scripture. When we walked in, there was a lot of scripture on the walls. It was all wood carved. They had a king's table, like a table like 3 times as long as this, like a real king's table. The big chairs went in, and that's where the smorgasbord was. But before we we got there. We pulled up, and lo and behold, the door opens, and George Harrison walks out, and I'm like,
That's phenomenal.
oh my God, he's actually here. And so we we meet him. It's me, Tommy Guerrero, Mark Sato, and Mike McGill. And we go into the courtyard, and he's like, hey, you want to guys have a drink? So we have a drink with him, and we start talking about skating. And he said, hey, I heard some of you guys are in music. And Tommy's like, yeah, I play in a band. And I go, yeah, I play in a band too, but I don't know how to read music. And George Harrison goes like, I've never learned how to read music either. I play by ear. And I'm like, dude, that is so cool. So it made me feel like I was on his level as far as a musician.
Yeah.
Being like, wow, okay, that's really cool. That I'm not looked down upon because I don't read sheet music, that, I've learned how to play music on my own by just listening.
Yeah. Sheet music on guitar is very hard though.
I bet. Yeah.
I
still don't know how to read it.
How do you talk about music with chords and things like? Are you able?
I know the chords like E, A, D, G, B, E. I know those chords, and I know power chords. But I'm still learning as a musician to learn how to play my guitar better. I'm still learning, but I take a lot of influence from different things that I like, and I try to add it to my flavor and how I play. And so there's a lot of influence that goes on being in a band and writing music, and we're always trying to one up ourselves.
Yeah.
We're always trying to be better. We're always trying to play better. And it's just it's practice, man, and touring and putting in the work. And I'm willing to live downgraded to accomplish a goal that we set for the band. So I don't have to live a life of luxury. I can if I want, but I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, that's cool, man. Now this whole, I guess this whole chat, that's sort of the theme, is you're a guy that is just like interested in following a passion and then progressing in that passion. It seems like that's where you find so much meaning.
Yeah, and we're all connected, and we try to use our connections to help, get to that next, place. And obviously, in this world, once again, it's not what you know. Sometimes it's who you know. And I use those channels, to get to where I am. And it could sound like you just using people. Well, people use everybody in certain ways, but I try to make it as equal as I can. It's like you're using me to help promote you. So can I use you to help promote me? Yeah. And it's a give and take, and
a rising tide floats all boats.
Yeah. So, and then there are the guys that you meet and people that are just takers. Yeah. And you're like, and I just try to stay away from that, and but and that's where wisdom comes in. You can see them a mile away. Yeah. So if anything, I've learned to spot red flags a lot quicker than I have in the past. Yeah. And that's where wisdom comes. So if someone is telling you that you're unwise, it's because you don't know how to spot a red flag when it's waving right in front of your face. Is that a bad thing? No, it's the truth. Yeah. You're just not as wise as you should be.
Yeah. So speaking of, have you got anything worth promoting right now?
My documentary.
Yeah.
For one.
When's that come out?
Hopefully this year. It's this year's Year of the Dragon, so he's striving really hard to get it out.
Yeah.
I was
your
born,
birth year.
Yeah, born 1964.
Yeah.
What else do we have? We're working on a new record with my band, the Urethane.
Yep.
So that's in the works. We're just always putting out new decks. I'm working on a mountain bike shoe for Vans right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So actually,
Dude, I want that.
Tomorrow I have a meeting at Vans to go in there to see a sample.
Yep.
And so we're trying to go through channels to make that happen. Have we gone through the channels, the channels that they want? No. But, when there's a will, there's a way. So we've been striving and trying to convince them that mountain biking is huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge industry there. It's a huge community there. And people need a Vans mountain bike shoe. And I want my half cab to be included with it as well, because I'm an enthusiast. I'm a realist. I go out there, I put the work in, I ride, I train, I try as hard as I can to be the best mountain bike rider that I can. And so I'm not just putting on a mountain bike shoe because it's a new thing. Like, I want to have that.
What's a mountain bike half cab look like to you? What's that? What features are we building into this thing?
I would say the features that what mountain bikers want to have it function correctly, and the performance, the way it lasts, the way it feels on your foot. So we listen to a lot of riders and what they want, and that's when, that's how you make things happen and you make great product. And the only reason why the half cab ever came to existence is because, for one, I listened to the skaters. They were cutting down my shoe. My shoe came out in 1989. By 1991, everyone who bought my shoe was cutting it in half. So I started cutting it in half too, and I was following the trend. I was being a trendy person and following what the street skaters were doing. And then after like the second pair, I'm like, what? Like, why am I even doing this? Why don't we just make them? So I called Vans and I said, hey, all these people are cutting down my shoe and they're duct taping them so the foam doesn't come out. Some of them are sewing them, and why don't we just make that shoe and call it the half cab? And it's synonymous. Is that the word?
Synonymous?
Synonymous to the trick itself, because the trick that I invented in 1980 called the Caballero, which is a fakie 360 ollie, was invented before the half cab. So some people think the half cab came first, and then that's why they call it the full cab. But it's in vertical skating, it's the other way around. In street skating, you probably do a half cab first on the street, and then you do a full cab. That's the progression. The way that I invented it was I was not even going to think about going halfway and then come back to faking. No way. It's going to come all the way around.
Yeah.
So the full cab Caballero came out in 1980. 3 years later, Kevin Staub and Tony Hawk were working on the half Caballero, doing half. So then eventually they just called it the half cab. And same what happened with my shoe. My shoe came out in 1989, the full cab, which is just a Caballero high top. And we cut it in half. And then the thing in my head was like, I'm just going to copy what we did in skating, but let's call it the half cab. It's like
so iconic,
no brainer, right?
Yeah.
And let's put a trick of me doing the half cab so we can emulate the Air Jordan, because I looked up to Nike and the Air Jordan, because we wore Air Jordans in the late 80s or mid 80s before I got sponsored by Vans. So I didn't get sponsored by Vans till 1988. So I was wearing Vans from 79 to 88 and never sponsored by them. And so I got my full sponsorship in 88. My shoe came out in 89, the half cab 92. And so now we just celebrated a couple years ago the 30-year anniversary of the half cab. And what my point is, if Vans never listened to me and said, hey, now let's just keep it the way it is. It's a trend. It's just going to fade. But they listen. And so now I'm celebrating 30 years of the half cab.
That's so iconic. Such an iconic shoe.
Yeah.
So anything else to shout out before we wrap this thing up? I know you got kids to pick up and you're a busy man. You got things to do.
Wow. I don't know what else to say. I just want to thank you for having me on your show, and the fact that you have all these prestigious athletes on it. It's an honor for me to share my life with you. And like I said, I was wondering, like, why does he want me on the show? What attraction do I have to you that you want to hear me speak to your audience? So, you're just putting me on another level, because I am inspired by your show and I look up to your show because of the guests that you have. Could you imagine if you didn't have these guests, your show wouldn't be as appreciated?
Oh, yeah,
right?
For sure.
So to lump me in that, it's an honor for me.
No, I appreciate it. And like I said, honestly, this is like, I just see the way you are at the track.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's the man. Like,
yeah, but I'm a skateboarder.
I know, but like what you represent, like, and because I know that obviously, like, I've followed everything that you've done for forever, so I just think to see you as like Steve Caballero, the skater, but then as Steve Caballero, the moto rider, I just think it's so pure, the love that you have
Thank you.
for riding and skating and everything that you do. And to me, that's inspirational.
Yeah.
I love people that are like that.
And to be honest, I'm going to be, what's the word? I'm losing my brain here. But I'm going to be vulnerable here. I was nervous to be on your show because, for one, I'm not considered like a motocross athlete. And then you have these people on your show that people are, that's your crowd.
Yeah.
So I feel like, man, are people going to want to hear what I have to say? Like, what can I, like, am I going to say the right thing? So yeah, I still get insecure. I still get nervous. Like, should I study up on like who's on top, you know, so I can say the right thing, cause I want to say the right thing. Everybody wants to say the right thing. But like I said, I was just like pretty stoked that you wanted me to be a part of it,
No,
so thank you.
Hey, do you want to do something cool real quick?
All right.
I just got a guitar. So there's a guy in Colorado, and I started talking about playing guitar
Nice.
on the podcast. He's like, I didn't know that you played. Durango Guitar Works. And so he made a guitar. I haven't seen it. I haven't opened it.
Yeah.
I was thinking if I open it, I could like let you play it first.
Is it in tune?
I don't know. I'll open the box. Stay tuned. Podcast is over. This is extracurricular activity.
Oh, okay. Peace.
That's a sick looking guitar.
Ready to have an amp?
I know, yeah. It's in storage.
That's good.
Epic.
Yeah, it's heavy.
What do you reckon?
It's heavy. Yeah, I'd have to hear it plugged in. I mean, it plays nice. Yeah,
Sweet.
solid piece of wood there.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.